You alright? You alright, Ruby?
Phil walks the tree line when the sun goes down. Boots in the gravel on the edge of town. Backpack rattles with a lantern and a map. Looking for the thing
behind it. And then 2 3-foot tall, 3.5-foot tall guardians with glowing red eyes were there.
Boys been chasing shadows in the midnight grass. But Phil just smiles at the cold night air. 'Cause something out there knows he's there. In the rustle of leaves.
Yeah, I've experienced everything from angels to demons to ghosts to all kinds of other things I can't explain. I had my first Bigfoot encounter back around 2012 or something like that.
Chasing ghostly echoes in the pale moonlight, from forgotten forests to the deserts deep, where the old bones hide and the spirits creep. With a camera and courage and a trail to see, he'll follow any legend through eternity. Yeah, the world's full of whispers most folks never see, but they all know.
I think disclosure is inevitable for one simple fact. This is true. UFOs are real. You can ignore the truth, you can distort it, you can hide it, you can lie about it, but you will never destroy it.
Lights dancing in a cold black sky. Track band branches where the tall grass sways. Heard something breathing in the forest.
A guy standing next to my bedroom door, only at night, and he stood there, and I was 3-4 years old, and my mom thought I was crazy.
And when the fire burns low and the coyotes sing, you can bet he's hunting something strange again. Through the static and dark, through the myth and the lore.
Obviously, I believe that these things exist after the stuff I've seen. So you can't say to someone who's seen stuff, these things aren't real. Obviously, 'cause, But yeah, people keep telling me they're not real, but I know they are.
running wild and free.
Welcome to the Friday Night Files. I'm gonna just get on with it because we've got an awful lot. It's bulging. It really is bulging this week with content. I hope you've had a good week. I went to see Disclosure Day this week, and do you know my opinion of it? Bottom line, it's like Spielberg and more importantly, the writer just put every UFO alien trope he could possibly find into it, hoping really that we would kind of swallow it up. And you know, we're more discerning, we're more questioning, we know more about the whole agenda. We've seen, each of us have seen the spew of videos from the Pentagon. We know there is something. A lot of us personally have seen UFOs. We've read the books. We're more discerning, and we deserve better than, I believe, what Spielberg coughed up at us, really. If you were completely new or a 12-year-old going to see the movie, you'll be blasted away. It's a rollicking good romp, but for people that are aware, it's just sadly not enough. But that's it's a shame. It really is a shame, and it didn't have that Spielberg touch to it, you know. Spielberg is a master of understatement. With E.T., I can remember being really quite, scared at first. You know, when E.T. befriended Elliot, and that iconic scene in the shed when they were in the cornfield in his mother's house, and he was throwing the ball, and the ball just like you saw coming back from the shed, and it's like, oh, you know, it's it was a masterclass, that film was. And really, with Disclosure Day, we deserved more, really. And I think a lot of people were expecting more, because you know, we are grown up, we are aware, we are a discerning audience. And when you come to a subject like that, which the timing was spot on, and I think that played a big part with me anyway, because the timing was right bang there when we knew that David Walsh was going to take to the steps and come out with really quite some astounding news. You know, he said that, you know, basically aliens existed, and there was a bipedal alien, standing upright alien, and also, more importantly, which he mentioned about plasmoid entities, which I very much, and this is where I was talking to one of our Matt, who's going to be on this program, Matt Hornick, about this, and I said there's an awful lot of bleed over, and I think the groups are really quite fractured, you know, and I don't particularly like the idea of these groups, you know, UFO groups, paranormal groups, and cryptid groups all being so fractured and isolated off from each other. We should all really kind of share information and look for more of a thread of truth which runs between all of the engineers that we look into. But other than that, I really do I'm so excited to have our guest on, Guy Anderson. Now I've got a co-host who is Rob Shelsky, and also Matt Hornick as well. Now, Matt, I've asked to come on because he has a very inquiring mind, and he has quite a broad knowledge base. He really has got a broad knowledge base, and especially when it comes to Freemasonry as well. So first of all, I'd like to bring up Rob Shelsky. 1, 3, 2, 1, and here we go.
Hi
Hello.
there.
Hello. How are you doing, Rob?
Oh, I'm not doing too badly. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, I'm fine. Yep, not. Yeah, I can't grumble. Really, the sun's come out, so the sun always shines on the righteous, and so I'm pleased about that. And it sort of appeared when you just like sort of popped up, to be honest, Rob.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you got any inclination to go and see Disclosure Day?
I did, but after hearing you, no. Actually, I did read a review of it. It was pretty in-depth. It's high on the Rotten Tomatoes list, so I think 89 or something like 88. But the plot sounds very thin to me, actually. I mean, I don't want to ruin it for anyone, but the aliens decide that the government's not going to release the information, so they go to individuals to try to get them to release it about them. But that seems to be the upshot of the whole thing. Is that right?
Yes, it's as I say, they kind of like chucked in. I mean, you talk about aliens or UFOs, and automatically it's gonna come to mind of telepathy. That was in the film. I'm not gonna. There's no spoilers here because I'm just gonna mention a few things. If I do mention anything, it's gonna be only stuff that you'll see on trailers anyway, people. So telepathy. Now they had one interesting thing which I found was slightly different, which they brought to the table was. It played very heavily in the film, was an artifact. And if you can imagine that this was like a stone, where is it? Like a stone. And it had hieroglyphic writing on it. And they would hold it. You see it in the trailer, they hold it and it sort of glows. And they were utilizing that to make things invisible. They were utilizing it to also as a way of what's the word? Not telepathy as such, but I could use this item, this artifact, and I could be talking to you in your room, Rob, behind you right now by using this. So yeah. That's a worry, isn't it? So yeah, so it was kind. That was the new thing that was on the table when I went to see the film, but the rest of it was all kind of what you would normally expect. I was watching it and I was in a constant state of anticipation to see something new, to see some kind of to see something a revelation which I hadn't seen before from Spielberg, but no, I sadly didn't.
And that thing that you're talking about on the show, I believe they refer to it as a thingy. They don't ever really explain how it can do what it's doing, right? That's what the reason.
No, that's right. They don't, and it's a shame because they don't really explain an awful lot. You have the plot that rolls along. Basically, this guy works for a Quango secret section of the government, and then he believes that the information he has, he should make public. And he's working alongside a partisan group which are all about disclosure, and it's he has this information, and then the naughty bad government are chasing him to apprehend him, to get the artifact back and to get the information to stop it from going out to the public. That's in the nutshell of the film. So but none of it is truly, everything that happens is never truly explained fully. There's a scene in it where a certain building disappears, goes invisible, but they never explain how that happens.
Invisible, yeah.
And
that's the word. That's what I heard, yeah. And also the aliens, when they finally are seen, look awfully reminiscent of the Close Encounter of the Third Kind aliens, is what I was.
Yes, they do. Yeah, they do. And he's very generous, Spielberg, when it comes to he always makes the aliens out to be very benevolent. Whereas, as we know, with a lot of eyewitness testimony, when they are taken, they're and abducted, they're less than benevolent, and they leave the witness in a state of trauma or PTSD or after having a good probing, I'm ever hopeful, Rob. I'm ever hopeful.
What, that you get a probing too? I think I'll pass.
Yeah, I don't get out a lot.
No. Your definition of a good time is a little weird.
Yeah, beat me up, Scotty, probe me. Yeah, so I don't know, but yeah, it's one of those. Each their own. As I say, look, it's a rollicking good romp. It's full of action, and it's got that Spielberg spin where kind of there's never a flatline moment in a movie. Do you know what I mean? It rolls along, and you kind of like it. You're trying to sort of like take your breath. Really, you're trying to grasp a breath. The speed it goes at is amazing.
Kind of like
So
Indiana Jones,
yeah.
Fast
So
movie.
it's entertainment, and that's what it is. But like I said, I think we're a more discerning, a more discerning audience would be like, oh, really, But
It's not the 80s anymore. We've kind of moved past that now.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
We want and expect a little more, and we also expect more in the way of explanations too. I mean, you can't just pull in some something and say, oh yeah, this can do this, and not say how it can or why it can. But people are happy to use it, like the thingy,
For sure. Okay, right. Now we have a guy that I've asked to come on because of his knowledge and data sets that he has when it comes to certain subjects, and it's Matthew Hornick. Hello, Matthew. I'm going to move
Hi,
you
everybody.
along. Hello.
Hi, Rob. Hi, Phil. Love you both.
How you doing, Matthew?
Thank you very much for coming on. Right, gentlemen. I'm going to bring on Guy in a little while. Now, it's going to be covering, as we know, it's going to be covering a lot of missing history and Tartarian lore. So I hope you brushed up on your homework on it. I certainly haven't. I'm just going to wing it. But
We'll carry you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I hope you got strong arms. The big lunch mat. Yeah,
I am actually.
Okay. All right then. Right, I'm going to bring our guest up then, Mr. Guy Anderson. Right, 3, 2, 1, and here we go. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
How
Hi.
are you
You all
doing,
right?
Dick?
Yeah, good. Thank you. How are you?
Hello. Yes, good. Thank you. Sorry. Yeah, all good. How are you keeping, Guy?
Yes, I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Yep, not too bad. As I say, disappointed after seeing the film because it was like £11 or 12 quid, more or less. And you think to yourself, really, but just I think that's timing, though, isn't it? You know what I mean, Guy? It's like it was a day after that.
Well, I'm
David
off to see it on Sunday, so no spoilers.
Oh, right. Sorry. Yeah, no. It'd be interesting. Let us know what you think.
Yeah, I'll put a post up on my socials on Monday with my thoughts. But I want to see it because my friend David Icke, he went to see it and he shared his thoughts on it, and I thought, well, I need to give it a go.
Yeah, I saw some of David Icke's posts about it. I think he's of the same sort of vein as I am when it comes to his opinion of the film. He was less than impressed, but Yeah, but I think he's got a fair point, David Icke. When he turned around and he was saying that it is could well be a psyop, of it.
I'll wait and
But
see. I don't want to know too much because
I'm
I
not
want to
letting
see it for
anything.
myself.
Yeah, exactly. Right, I'll take the comments off. I'm sorry, people at home, but it's right damn smacking away. There we go. Right, okay. Right. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you very much. Guy, can I ask, first of all, were you always interested in Tartarian law? What kicked it off for you?
Max Egan. I'm sure you all know Max. It was Max that introduced me to it back end of 2019. I've been researching conspiracy theories for 30 years, but Tartaria was new, and it wasn't until I heard Max talking about it, and then I started talking to Max, that it enabled me to connect so many other conspiracies and rabbit holes, because Tartaria is really the linchpin to them all. And I'm very grateful to Max for introducing it to me.
Okay. Because your reference work of just to jump in really quick, you reference Anatoly Fomenko, suggesting that 800 years were artificially added to our timeline, making the true year of the New World Order reset 976 AD instead of 1776. Is that right?
His work on chronology is incredible. I mean, he's still with us. Unfortunately, he doesn't speak English at all, and I would love to have a conversation with him. And a friend of mine's tried to get him to liaise through a translator, but he doesn't appear to be that interested in doing that. But he's an incredible mind. And I guess anybody out there that's interested in chronology will already know who Anatoly Fomenko is. His work's really heavy going, but I would recommend it if anybody's interested in the timeline. Absolutely.
Can you sort of explain to us how the chronology deception was pulled off, and also what role the mud floods played in burying the old Tartarian world?
Obviously got two different things there. So with the new chronology, Anatoly Fomenko believes that they've added fictitious events and periods of time to create what appears to be a narrative for our evolution with regard to the technology progression. It's because obviously what the mainstream don't want us to believe is that we were once far more advanced than we were now. They want us to accept the fact that we were primitive. We discovered fire, built the wheel, and so on, and then slowly evolved to where we are today. But obviously, if you look at technology since the Industrial Revolution, what's happened over the last couple of hundred years, it's accelerated at an incredible rate. So that in itself cannot really be easily explained. So Anatoly Fomenko believes that the reason that they have done this is to hide the fact that they were far more advanced in previous civilizations. And at the same time, it's enabled certain people, these parasitic elites, to keep that technology for themselves and release it in diluted forms for public consumption. Ultimately, today, for example, with technology that can be used as surveillance and to control us to an extent. Tartaria is known for harnessing energy from the ether. Well, that obviously doesn't really benefit financially businesses like Rockefeller's Standard Oil, for example. With regards to the mud floods, there are lots of different theories on that. Michelle Gibson is perhaps one of the greatest minds researching that particular area, and she believes that they spiked the grid. We live on what appears to be a circuit board, which some people refer to as ley lines. By spiking that, she believes that that is what caused these cataclysmic events. The quake of New Madrid in 1812 is perhaps one of the best examples of that. But if you read the accounts by Count de Seur, the French officer that was in charge of a large troop that went into the Napoleonic Wars going into Moscow, his accounts state that when they arrived, they saw melted brick, church bells that had melted, rock that had melted, and a fire that defied all logic and nature by actually going into the wind. And he said that they'd never seen anything quite like that. And he was describing what appeared to be direct energy weapons being used. And that ties in with the Napoleonic comet. Napoleon's comet of 1811, 1812 does tie in to that. So there are lots of theories for the mud floods, but Count de Seur, the French officer, his account is online. People can read that. And also, I would suggest people look at the New Madrid quake, where the Mississippi actually ran backwards. Metallic objects flying through the air. It looks like direct energy weapons were used to cause the mud floods.
Yeah, I've listened to Graham. I listened to a podcast with Graham Hancock, and he was saying that because the Earth goes through an asteroid belt twice a year, and there's got fragments of much larger asteroid that once hit, and he believed that could have caused, a cataclysmic effect on Earth. He wasn't specific about mud flood, but he said that that, and we still go through that belt. I forgot what it's called now. We still go through that asteroid belt, evidently, every June and every October or November. And we like kind of encounter fragments from this asteroid belt. It's a fascinating thing, because one thing that I do remember reading about was the Black Tom event in the States that no one seems to have heard of, or it's not heard of an awful lot. There's a massive big explosion that happened in First World War, I believe it was, where the Germans planted a bomb. I can't remember where the hell it was now, and it's called a Black Tom event, and it was by a dock, and it took out a hell of a large area, and yet it's kind of not mentioned in the history books at all, the Black Tom event.
I wonder if that's because that was an experiment that went wrong, and that's why it's not.
Yeah. You're how did you get into Freemasonry, Guy?
Well, my dad joined when I was a kid, and he wouldn't tell us anything. My mum used to joke, saying that he was off to his private club with his friends, and they were going to bake cakes wearing their aprons, and she called them pinnies. And he used to laugh and say that you can say whatever you like, but they run the world. And he wouldn't tell us anything other than that. That's all he ever said. That was the last statement he would make when he walked out the door wearing his morning suit with his oversized briefcase. And one day I cracked the briefcase open. It took me ages to work out that actually the combination was our phone number. But anyway, he found out that I'd been going through it. I guess I didn't put things back properly or put it back where it was correctly. And he said to me, when you're old enough, you can join. And I said, well, what do you do? What do you know? What do you talk about? And he's just said the same thing again. They run the world. And I left it until I was about 30 years old. And then a friend of mine, he invited me to join. And the lodge that he went to, his father was very high ranking. He had the keys to the city as well. Very well respected in London. And he himself was an Olympian gold medalist athlete, my friend. And fortunately, they met at the Grand Lodge of the United Kingdom in Great Queen Street. So it was really the place to be. So I joined, and I thought, I'm going to find out who built the pyramids. I'm going to find out who sits at the top of the the hierarchy, who pulls the strings, and I'm going to uncover everything about King Solomon and sacred geometry. I'm going to learn it all, and 10 years from now I'll be a 33rd degree Freemason, because it's progressive. After a few years I realized that wasn't going to happen. I carried on going in the hope that I might progress to maybe move to perhaps Knights Templar and find out a little bit more about that. But the lodge I went to, most of the people there were high-ranking police officers, and my friend stopped going, and it was just me driving from Northamptonshire to London. I was self-employed. I was a tattoo artist, and it was taking me literally a day of my life to go to these meetings. And sometimes I would turn up and it was like I was in I suppose, a private bar at Scotland Yard at the Metropolitan Police. They were talking about jobs they were on and things like that. And I just thought, this is ridiculous. I'm spending a lot of money. I'm not going to progress anywhere. So I slowly stopped going. And then I returned briefly because my youngest son wanted to join. And I after that, I didn't go back. And then I started speaking about my disappointment in how it works, and how so many people use it just to accelerate their careers within the police force and within government, and how that as a tattoo artist I had nothing to offer them other than my time and commitment, and that wasn't of any interest to any of them. So I was asked to leave. Which I did, and actually recently I was reminded that I hadn't formally resigned, so I had to do that by email in April. So so I've not been for, I don't know now.
Did they have
quite a few years?
Did they have like an NDA with them where you can't talk about it? No?
People who tend to talk about Freemasons the most, about what goes on and so on, have never actually joined. So there are lots of sort of rumors that they do, all sorts of things, and that you sign. What was that? I was recently told that I'd signed an oath in blood, but of course these things are always said by somebody that's never been a Freemason, and you have to actually join really to know how it works if you're interested. For me, I thought I would learn occulted knowledge. I had nothing to benefit from joining financially, because I had nothing to offer a group of middle-aged to be fair, elderly men. Unless they wanted a tattoo, and none of them did. So I had nothing. So there was nothing for me to gain from going, other than knowledge, and I didn't really achieve that, unfortunately, because it's a closed shop. You can't get that high, not without the right breeding and influence.
You said you were asked to leave. Did they actually ask you to leave?
Well, I fell out with somebody there. I fell out with actually a couple of people, and I was told that it would probably be better if I didn't come back. And at the time, I didn't want to go anyway. I hadn't been attending, so it was never official. It was a conversation that was had over the phone, but I'd lost interest anyway. So it didn't really matter. And then there was an argument about apparently I owed them some money for my fees, which I didn't. And I just basically put the phone down, and that was that.
So, like, when you went to the Mason, like you did your degrees, how far up the degree ladder did you go? Because it's like
master, same as most people. Yeah, most people only ever get to the third.
Well, so you were on the York or the Scottish rite? Because I'm a Master Mason of the Blue Lodge. And some of the issues you talk about are quite legit, because like Phil, like the Master Masons rule the world, but I mean, if you knew how dyslexic our lodge was, I don't see them ruling anything. But the power of influence.
I'm talking about much higher up. I'm talking about much higher up in Freemasonry, not Master Masons.
So you were in England by any chance? You said. Are you in Europe? Okay. Well, I'm in Pennsylvania, and we have access to one of the libraries here in PA. And like, I get books on a regular basis from the higher level Mason thing at the state capitol. And it's like one of the books I just got done was about the Sator square, how all the souls and everything goes through Saturn, how Saturn is the limiting force of creation in numerology and the matrices that maintain the universe, so to speak. It's actually quite fascinating. It's like about 400 pages, a couple 100-year-old book. It's really nice. But like, there is, like, see, the biggest problem that I see in Freemasonry is they won't tell you unless you ask the right question. Unless you know who to go to, it can be very one-ended. Like, I mean, our lodge is 160 years old. It's mostly full of boomers. Like, we are in a very critical point where we could lose a lot of that oral tradition and oral knowledge, because a lot of it's taught one-on-one, passed down. Like, did you have a mentor assigned to you to work with you on a regular basis? Did you like join any little extra little side groups or anything like that?
Yeah, we had something called Lodge of Instruction.
Right, we do that as well.
That's where you went to learn. But I would drive into London to do that, which was for me about an hour and a half, and I had to pay a congestion charge, then pay to park, take an afternoon off work, and I was self-employed. And a couple of occasions I got there and nobody turned up.
Well, I mean, you get what you put into it.
Obviously.
Obviously.
I put quite a lot into it, and unfortunately, a lot of people that in my particular lodge didn't. There were a few that did, but a lot that didn't. A lot that were just using it, really.
See, there's the base level people. Like, our lodge has a couple hundred people in it, but like, really, they've only taught maybe 20 or 30 that are really about improving the soul, alchemy, sacred, and really about developing oneself and improving oneself. So, like, my question to you is, like, you said that they were all basically just talking around and sharing their job, because we have a lot of police officers and judges and stuff that are part of our lodge. And the whole thing is, did you seek out and try to develop a personal relationship to get access to the higher levels? Like, I mean, you went, but
yeah,
like, you can just go like visit a few. Yeah, it does actually.
Okay. I didn't know you'd been to my lodge, but it's
not your lodge. I'm just saying my lodge. I've been to
mine was really
lodges.
sort of mine was really a club for the Met Police. Really, that was the majority of the people there.
Why don't you go to a different lodge?
Very different. Pardon?
Try a different lodge. You can always file for a lodge closer. They're everywhere.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, instead of you like having to deal with them, just file for another lodge. You can skip a different lodge. I have my passport.
I'll tell you what, Matt. The one reason I would join the Masons, and that is because I went to, it was near Covent Garden. There's a Freemasonry museum. Now, in the UK in the 70s, there was a guy that used to spend his time with his hand up a emu, and
Rod Hull.
Yeah, Rod Hull. Yeah, and I had a shock of my life. I was looking around, fascinated by this museum. I was going around looking at all the. They had a lot of china there, a lot of chinaware. Funny enough, all in glass cabinets, plates and vases, and I was quite fascinated by a lot of the symbolism. And they had like a chair there on a pedestal, like on a plinth, a big chair, like a throne chair thing. And I was like, oh, I really wanted to sit on it, but I thought I better not. But I bet someone's put a whoopee chair or a whoopee cushion on it or something as soon as I sit on it, But
that'd be funny, actually.
Yeah.
Is that? I think you might have gone to Great Queen Street, Phil. I think Great Queen Street is where you went.
Yes, and there's the one where you walk down the corridor. So you come out of as you go into the room where the museum, so you walk in and it's got a lovely big staircase facing you in front, and it goes up.
Yeah.
Beautiful old thing. And lovely turned wood on the banister and the spindles, beautiful thing. And then you turn left down the corridor and then left through into another room, and you start your the museum. Where you go through and you have a look at all the bits and bobs in there
on the left-hand side.
Corridor, Guy, when you face that corridor, there's a lot of portraits on the wall, and I was just going along the corridor having a look at the portraits, and then I had to do a double take, and I looked and I thought, can't be, no, it's not, and it was Rod Hull. So in the 70s, people watching in the States will know that Rod Hull was quite famous because Emu, who was a puppet that he had his hand stuck up, he kind of like got up to a lot of shenanigans, you know, and he got away with an awful lot of stuff because of this puppet, you know. All the puppet done it, not me, you know. And the puppet would like kind of, and he had a very famous interview with a guy at the time. It was quite famous interviewer, Russell Harty, and he ended up attacking him
I
on
remember
screen.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Emu, the puppet, ended up attacking
Yeah.
this like guy, you know. And yeah, his portrait's in there, guys. Portrait. He was a Freemason. Could you believe it? And interestingly enough, when he had his portrait done, he had Emu on the portrait. I was like, what? Yeah, he was Freemason. He was quite high up as well, evidently.
Well, Jim Davidson was at my lodge, but
he?
he'd stopped going before I joined. Yeah, Jim Davidson, Ronnie Scott, and Dick Emery.
Ronnie Scott. My mum always wanted to go to Ronnie Scott.
Yeah.
And Dick Emery.
Yeah. But Jim Davidson must have left literally a few years before I joined. And they're mentioned in the in the summons that we used to get. They're mentioned in there. So I, unfortunately, I never got to meet them.
Oh, I'd love to have met Dick
Jim.
Emery. Oh, you are awful, but I like you.
Yeah. So you went to where I used to meet. You went to Great Queen Street, and it's got these enormous brass doors.
Yes.
Yeah. They're balanced with pennies. They put pennies on the top of them to balance them, and you can literally push them open with your finger. Yeah, perfectly balanced.
Yeah, I know they had really nice toilet. I'd love to do like a paranormal thing because it's so old. They had lovely toilets in there. So as you go down
cigar,
the corridor,
they've got cigar holders next to the urinals.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've never come across that before. They had cigar holders. I couldn't believe it. You know, and the proper old-fashioned toilets. You know, you get like close coupled, you know, normal ones people have, and then you get the high level ones with a tank up really high on it, and the downpipes really long, about 4
Thomas
or 5 foot
Crapper.
long.
Yeah.
And I was like, I spent a little while on tour thinking, "Blah, God, cigar holders." I know. That's like amazing. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah. Yeah, right. I know. We were doing an interview. Hang on. Bear with. I've got another. I did prep something. Right. Yes, I know what we're. And this is gonna get Rob as well. I know Rob's interested in this. Nikola Tesla. You say he doesn't, may not have actually existed, but was rather a fictitious figure created by elite to act as a backstory for releasing recovered Tartarian free energy technology. My question is, what evidence led you to this conclusion, and how did the original Tartarians actually harness etheric energy using architecture and the 432 hertz frequency?
Well, first of all, I hope he did exist. I really do, but I find it very strange because his backstory doesn't make a lot of sense. He claims that he was receiving information through the Venetians that came to him in visions that he experienced when he had blackouts. And I just found it very strange. And he also said that he never wrote anything down. But yet when he died, it took 2 trucks allegedly to remove the documents from his hotel room that then went off to a secure warehouse somewhere in New York. So if he didn't write anything down, why did it take 2 truckloads to take the documents to this location? And also, how many documents can you fit in a safe in a hotel room when we're told it was 2 truckloads? So so first of all, I find that strange. Secondly, there is no video footage of him, and I contacted his museum, and they're not aware of any either. And their answer in the end was they think he might have been camera shy. And I thought, well, the Nikola Tesla we've been told about was paid to attend dinner parties, gave speeches and lectures. He was interviewed quite regularly. So I don't believe he was camera shy, but I just find it strange that you can go onto the internet and find video footage of Edison and Einstein, but you can't find anything of him at all. And he has obviously no descendants, which makes it very difficult to trace him. So when you're presented with those things, I often wonder whether or not certain people throughout history have been created to give a backstory, to give a narrative and an explanation for things that they can't explain. So if, for example, they were reverse engineering Antiquitech, then you could create somebody and then pin everything on them. So that's just a theory, and I would love to find somebody that actually had a member of their family that met him. And I've reached out so many times to so many people, and I got quite close once. I actually contacted somebody that said that they were his nephew. Sorry, beg your pardon, that they were his niece. And when I pushed and said, you know, do you have any photographs? Is there anything you could share with me? They actually said to me, Donald Trump has told me I'm not allowed to speak to you.
What?
And at that point, I thought maybe they perhaps weren't very well, or were you know, stringing me along, you know, having a bit of fun. Now, obviously, there'll be lots of people out there that say, of course he existed. But the problem is nobody's likely to be alive now that met him. So that isn't enough.
But that doesn't mean that they didn't exist. I mean,
No, I didn't say that.
No one's alive now that knew my father.
No, I didn't.
But
No, that's not what I meant. That's not what I meant. What I meant was there'll be people that say, of course he existed, but it would be lovely to find somebody that perhaps had photographs with him, you know, maybe their parents or relations, or friends of the family. So, you know, so like I said, I want him to have existed, but sometimes I just find his backstory really unusual. It's also unusual that we weren't taught about him at school. Certainly, we weren't here in England. We were taught about Edison. Tesla is relatively new, and if you stop most people in the street of my age, frankly, and said to them, do you know Tesla? They'll think of the car manufacturer and Elon Musk, the majority of people. And if you start talking about electricity, they'll start talking about Thomas Edison. And I find that all a little bit weird. So I just find it strange, and I just want somebody out there to be able to provide me with something. Of course, I'm sure if you're into Tesla, you'll know the Frank Zappa theory, and I find that one quite fascinating as well.
Well, I think he existed. I mean, I've seen photographs of him.
I've seen photographs, yeah.
And there's a lot of, well, remember the times he lived in. Video and film weren't really very common. There's a lot of famous people there's very little video of from the 30s and 40s. And he and Edison had a long-running battle, and Edison kind of won that battle, but it doesn't mean that Edison was right. I think Tesla was more on the ball than Edison. Edison had a laboratory, but mostly other people were performing his experiments for him and coming up with it. And his laboratories were claiming that he discovered it, basically, because they worked for him, and therefore was his intellectual property as a result. But I've been to the Edison home down in Florida. I have, I don't know. I just think he exists, and I think the evidence for it's pretty common. You know, I mean, not common, but it's there definitely.
Well, I got like
why
two
do you
questions.
think there isn't any footage of him? Or do you know of any? Because if anybody watching this knows of anything, it would be so useful. I'd really appreciate it if someone's
Well,
got
I don't
anything,
have
because
any footage of Maria Theresa, the Empress of Austria, but she did exist.
no, I mean, there is footage of Edison, as I was saying. There's footage of Edison and Einstein, and I've been searching everywhere. And I just think there must be something out there. And if somebody knows,
Edison was close
it would
friends
be
with
brilliant.
Henry Ford, and he was moving in rarefied circles, whereas Tesla wasn't. And he became a popular icon. And that is why there is footage of Edison. There isn't a great deal of footage of Edison, but there is some. And a lot of that footage came later in the late 40s and 50s, whereas Tesla was gone by the mid 40s?
I think 40, was it 46?
I was going to say
Around
right
there?
around the mid 40s, yeah.
Yeah, it's around there, wasn't it?
Yeah. But I mean, I'm not trying to be facetious here, but there's not film footage of a lot of people from that period, including my parents, both of them. There's photographs, but the film just wasn't common and easy to get by. And if you weren't popular, they didn't film you. And
I thought
Edison,
he was quite popular, though. He
not
was
at the
giving
time.
speeches and being paid to attend dinner parties.
To
And
select groups, but he wasn't generally popular and known. And Edison was pushed by Henry Ford and others who had a great deal of money and a great deal of power, and he became popular. Why is it one singer you'll see tons of footage on and another singer is just as good? You don't. It's because someone's popular and someone isn't. And Tesla was a foreigner, quote unquote, and he'd had a real battle with Edison, especially over, alternating current versus DC. And he basically went out long term, but he had sold off his patent to, what was it, Westinghouse for that? So
Yes.
he didn't really worry about patents or holding on to them. So he lost a lot of that, and they took it and ran with it. And I mean, have you seen a lot of film footage of who's the guy that ran against Truman? I can't even think of his name, but I mean,
No, probably not. Then, what
I
do you
want to
think
say
about?
Dewey.
What do you think about the way in which he received the information? What are your thoughts on that? Speaking to the Venetians.
Do you mean the Venusians?
Yeah.
The Venetians are in Venice, Italy.
Venetian, sorry, beg your pardon. He was speaking to the
Venusians. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, he also said that he had received signals from outer space with his radio, and he could have. There are radio signals coming from space. They're not coherent, but we do get radio stuff from the sun. We get it from Jupiter and everywhere. So he might have picked up something like that. But I also think that he was a loner, and I don't think he was what you would call your average normal individual. I mean, he was a genius, and along with genius, eccentricities sometimes occur too. And Tesla definitely had eccentricities. Not Edison. He was a astute businessman. He was very astute with that. And only recently, I would say, since about the 80s or 90s, did Tesla suddenly become popular. Before that, it was all about Edison, just as you say.
It's a shame, isn't it? Because I think if we went back to school, back to when I was at school, history has been really, well, we know it's written by the victors, don't we? But I think that really needs overhauling significantly, because as I've said to people over the years, the reason that you are sat in this room with the lighting that's around you and the ability to have electricity working the way it does is not because of Edison. Yet you're going to sit here and learn about him, and no one's going to mention Nikola Tesla. And I also find it strange that his mother also received these same visions, didn't she? She was creating sort of, I suppose, labor-saving household appliances. And very little is said about her, and and if that is how he received the information, she was obviously receiving it in the same form too.
Yeah, he was. I mean, he was. For people that don't know, Serbian, Orthodox. His father was a priest. But interestingly enough, you saying about video footage. There was never any audio of him as well found.
I have heard audio of him.
Have you heard audio?
Well, I've heard what I was told was audio. Yeah, I mean, I can't categorically say it was, but I have heard him talking. Yeah.
Well, I've done a few searches and I couldn't find any, audio of him, bona fide audio.
Bona fide's the key, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, that is, and it's a shame because we're sort of like pushing that ball. We're trying to roll it uphill because with the advent of AI getting it ever more cleverer, it's kind of making what we do ever more difficult, to be a credible subject or credible evidence, without people saying, it's AI, so
it makes you wonder how long they've had that. If we can do that now, if we have access to it now, how long have they had access to it, and how more advanced is what is at their disposal compared to what we have? And then you start questioning everything, don't you?
Who is they?
Well, you know, that government agencies are going to have far better technology than we have at our disposal, I
Oh,
would
you
imagine.
so you're talking about government agencies? I was just curious when you said that.
Yeah, I would imagine that what we've got is really just the tip of the iceberg, and it makes it difficult, doesn't it? We now don't know if what we're seeing is real or not. And I put YouTube on, and half the channels that seem to be AI,
They are.
AI talking, AI content, and I just wonder if one day I'm just going to switch it on, and that's all there will be, and you know that we won't be doing this anymore. You know.
Yeah.
Well, I had a quick question for you. Like the Tartarian technology, and you said it was released by government agencies slowly over time. If they did have that technology, would it not have been able to be worked on? Because like there is basically like a lot of documentation of Tesla doing the Tesla coils to basically harvest electricity from the air and wireless transmission of power. I mean, it just didn't happen in a vacuum. So it's like there's like a lot of other researchers that were on the same projects. Because remember, the power transmission issue is what Edison was trying to break with DC, and Tesla was able to come up with a solution with alternating current rather than just a direct DC, or you know what I'm talking about. So you know the whole thing is, if the government did have this Tartarian technology and it was actually still here and around, wouldn't we see more examples of that technology being used and like put forth? Like when I think of Tartarian technology, we hear about the bells and the vibration and you know the different sound patterns and such. Like how does that correlate to using Tesla and Tesla's technology as Tartarian?
Do you mean Tartarian?
Tartarian, yes. I'm sorry, Tartarian.
Yeah. So I think they're two different things, really. I mean, Tesla seemed to be set on achieving one thing, from what I understand, and that was to give free energy to the world. And that seemed to be his.
So in other words, Tartarian was completely different than what Edison stuff is, or not Edison and Tesla. I'm sorry, Tesla stuff is.
No, that's okay. Yeah. So in Tartaria, they appear to have been harnessing energy from the ether, and that seems to be really the fundamental sort of point of Tesla's life, to do the same thing, and Wardenclyffe Tower, obviously. So I think that either he knew what they were doing and had access to that information, maybe had found a way to reverse engineer something that he had found, or he was getting information from the same source, because they both seem to have really wanted to achieve the same ultimate goal, and that was free energy. And you can see why that would be a conflict of interest to people like Rockefeller and Standard Oil, you know, with the Industrial Revolution coming. And of course, now there's a fantastic festival that takes place in Australia every year. It's been going on for some time now. It's called the Rainbow Festival, and they've built their own Tesla tower, and that runs the lighting for the entire festival. And I'm sure people have seen them. You know, people out there have been making their own little Tesla machines and been powering up light bulbs and so on. Have you done it as well?
Yeah. I got one downstairs.
You know, I can't do it. I've tried so many times, and I've been told it's the wrong thickness of copper, not enough. I haven't wound it enough times. The magnets are wrong. And I
go to Moo and get yourself a Tesla coil kit, and all you have to do is solder the components together. You'll have one together in about 20 minutes.
Yeah, there you go. I got this recently. It's quite old, as you can imagine, but it actually tells you how to. There you go.
Oh, that's an old one too.
Yeah, it's old.
Yeah, that is old. Yeah. I mean, the paper looks yellow. That makes it pretty old.
Right? Yeah, there you go. Look.
Yeah. Oh wow,
that is nice. If you're closer, I'd come over and hang out with you.
If you want, if Phil gives me your details, I will photograph that and then send it to you, so you can have a look through it if anybody wants it. And I paid £1.75 in this from a second-hand bookshop, copyright 1986.
Wow!
But yeah, if you give me Matthew's details, Phil, I'll photograph each page and then I'll ping it over to you so you can have a look through it.
Yeah, of course. I'm just going to put up your Amazon book, Amazon website here, all your books as well. So right, you got Rise of the Clones, the Cabbage Patch Babies, and
Oh, I have a
conspiracy theories from Agatha to zombies. Oh, that looks
Yes,
good.
that's an A to Z. That's basically my posts and my blogs. So the blogs from my website and my posts. So it's just little snippets of 87 different rabbit holes to go down. My favourite one is actually on pigs. That's the one I find most fascinating of all.
On what? Say again.
Pigs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I find that. I find them very very unusual.
And for people as well at home, I'm just going to show you've got a website as well.
Mm.
The
Yeah, so I tend to
Tartarian
put the blogs
Empire.
on. So I tend to put the blogs on there that have caused me to be restricted now from Facebook, unfortunately.
Oh, okay. But so if you put if you put in the Tartarian Empire.co.uk, you'll get straight to his website. On that map, just to clarify, where is Tartaria?
Well, if you just scroll down a tiny bit. No, oh, sorry, beg your pardon. Scroll up, sorry. Keep going. There you go. I don't know if you can zoom in on that. There you are. And you can see it there broken into regions.
Russia.
Yeah, Russia. Goes into Eastern Europe and then obviously into Asia as well. And if so now you might want to scroll down a little bit.
Tartar independent.
Yeah. Chinese Tartary. There was also Crimean Tartary as well. There's lots of maps actually. If people go onto even Google Images, they'll be able to find lots of different maps that are showing it. And then slowly it disappeared and was removed.
Right.
There's still next to China. There's still there's still a stretch of water, stretch of ocean. That's the Gulf of Tartary. That's
Because
still there.
do you know what, Guy? I have heard if it's Russia, aren't we talking about what was called the Golden Horde? Northwest sector of the Mongolian Empire.
Yes.
But that was long before 1776. That was 13th, 14th century.
Yeah, well, people believe that Tartaria reigned for 1,000 years, so it would fall within that period. And in certainly within Abrahamic religions, it's referred to as the millennial reign of Christ, where they believe that for 1,000 years, Jesus and the saints built all of these cathedrals and these incredible structures that we see. So it's often connected to the same thing, a period of 1,000 years.
But the cathedrals are built by people in Western Europe, for instance, and Eastern Europe, and we have a lot of records for it. It was the Catholic Church's way of providing industry to local areas, to create an economy for them. And these they're well documented. I mean, the cathedrals, some of them were 80 years to be completed, some over 100. So
yeah, some
we
of them
know
took
for a
incredible
fact
periods.
that standard people built those, not the Tartarians.
Well, but the Tartarians are people. We're talking about people. With regard to the millennial reign of Christ and Jesus and the saints building these things, I was saying that in Abrahamic religion, they believe that. I wasn't saying I did, but that's just what the Abrahamic religions believe. So in lots of Facebook groups, they will refer to...
Wasn't part of the Tartarian expunging from history was to destroy all their buildings, like in San Francisco and in Chicago.
The Great Fires.
Yeah, well, that was Chicago, but that fire was started by Mrs. O'Leary's cow.
Apparently.
Yeah, apparently. And the one in San Francisco, they said they had these world fairs everywhere, and that they were designed to pretend that we had built them and not the Tartarian Empire. And then they destroyed them after the fairs were closed, saying they were only made of cheap horsehair and plaster and that kind of thing. And the people who believe in the Tartarian Empire said, no, those buildings were built to last. They were major structures. Well, some were built to last, but a lot of them were made out of, not entirely, but a lot of it was plaster and horsehair. It really was. I've got a photo right here that I've uploaded here of my grandfather worked on the San Francisco Fair, and he kept the original plaster pieces when they decided to change them out and make them permanent.
Wow.
And I have them. That's one of them. I have 4 of them.
Really?
And yes, if you zoom in on that, you will see horsehair.
That's incredible.
Well, they had to take them down because they were eroding. They had to replace them with concrete.
No, I mean, it's incredible that you've got that. I think that's amazing. What an incredible thing to
they
have.
do date back. Yeah, they date back over 100 years. Yeah. I have them in my dining room. That's my dining room.
That's incredible.
Yeah, but so I know for a fact that the San Francisco, which is one of the places they claimed the fair was to show the buildings to knock them down afterwards, that was their excuse, really was plaster and horsehair. And the one in San Diego, the 1919 one, I think it was, 1915 and 1919, the 2 of them, and the one in San Diego, same way. And so 3 of my pieces are from the San Francisco one, and one of them is from the San Diego one. And I know they're real because my grandfather actually worked for the city of San Diego, and he went to where they were stored and basically took them because nobody was using them anymore. They used them as casts to recreate them in concrete, but they just stored away they went, and they got forgotten over the decades, and brought them home.
That just seems wrong that something like that would be left and forgotten about. Just sort of...
Well, it's been replaced, you know. Look at the ruins in England; they've been lost, forgotten.
Yeah,
all over the place.
Yes, you're quite right. Yes, you're quite right. What's your thought on the fires? You know, a lantern knocking over and destroying a whole. You know.
Well, the same way it happened in London. Built too close together, no codes, very tight. I don't know if you ever saw stuff about Chicago when the tenements were there, like in East London, but they were highly flammable, mostly wood. Well, almost all wood practically, and the fire just spread. I mean, we have a lot of historical records, even talking about the phases of the fire, who died, who escaped, why they escaped. I mean, it's pretty well documented from a number of sources, not just the government, but from individuals who were in the fire and escaped the fire. But the earthquake in San Francisco, that was real, that was definite, and they said that they built this World's Fair afterwards with the pavilions and everything, and they did, but they did tear most of them down because it was using up valuable land space, and also because they were temporary structures. The food and beverage building in Balboa Park in San Diego, plaster, wood frame plaster with phony floors, and they weren't meant to last very long. Actually, they lasted a lot longer because San Diego and San Francisco are dry climates, so they didn't rot or fade quickly. But yeah, they were there. They were real. My father was city horticulturalist of San Diego, and so I used to go to Balboa Park where the original fair was, and you can see it all, you can examine it all, and you can and the mud flood thing, heavy buildings sink. The Millennium Tower in San Francisco is sinking right now, and it's brand new. Buildings sink all the time in London and everywhere else because they're built on fill or the wrong kind of dirt. They don't go down to bedrock, so they're a dense building. Laws of physics say that they will sink. Most of our heavy metals are at the core of the earth because they sink. And if you take soil and shake it up in a glass of water and let it settle, you'll see it's in layers, and the heaviest ones are on the bottom. So that's normal. So I don't.
So you firmly believe that all of the buildings that we have, just for example, in England, that all of those that have these windows, the basement windows peeking up from the pavement, that all of those buildings have sunk?
Quite a lot of them. I mean, remember where London is built on the banks of the Thames. It's a floodplain, and that's not.
just saying, for example, I'm talking about England generally, because it's in
and
every
also in
single
America
city
too.
and town.
Yeah, we have them in America too that have sunk
So,
like that too. Usually our
so
older
what we're
buildings.
saying, so literally, as far as you're concerned, every town and city that I've been to in England that has those mud flood windows, as we call them, they all exist in that form because they have all sunk
Well,
simultaneously.
I can't account for all of them, but I can account for a lot of them. Yes. The laws of physics are undeniable. Things sink when they're really heavy. They're built of stone. They're dense. They've been there for centuries. They sink. There's churches that are tilted at 89, that sort of thing.
I tell you what, Rob. I took the other half to. There's a thing over here called the Cheese Barge. It's in Camden, and it's her birthday. So I thought, she's a big cheese fan, like I am. I like a bit of cheese. So I went to a cheese barge, and everything on the cheese barge is like cheese. So your starter cheese, the main meal cheese, and the pudding. Believe it or not, cheese. So it's really nice. Anyway. And we went for a little walk around to have a little look, and we went down the side of the canal, and we were walking along, and we happened upon a really large, beautiful church. Now, we looked around the church. I like going around churches anyway because it's a window into the past, which virtually is it's not been usually modified. Old churches don't get modified; they stay as is, as much as possible. And it's an odd thing when you see that the front door to the church is pavement height, but then there's below that you've got windows which are below the pavement. You've got another doorway below the pavement, and you can see that they've made a not in keeping with the age of the church. It's a really old church, this one's. I can't think. I'll have a look on Google Maps in a minute, but
I know the one you're talking about.
Going down. There's a new staircase going down to this door, and you think to yourself, hang on a minute, right? Okay, so I get what you mean. All right, everything sinks, but not to the effect of a 15-foot sink below pavement level. If anything, the ground you find, Matt will bear me out on this. You will find, going on paranormal investigations, you often find that spooks and specters will be seen, and they'll look like they're floating above the ground by a foot or so, and that's put down to spooks and specters. The ground level was higher back then, and the ground level's gone down. But that's the ground level that they're walking on. So unless they've had the absolute reverse of raising the ground level in and around these old structures, it makes one wonder why the windows, which should really be made to allow light in, is below the ground level and no light can reach it. And you think, and it's all the way around the building, around the whole church.
Yeah, I read up on that church and I saw photos of it, and they all say it's because it's been sinking. Now, I mean, maybe there are floods where mud flows and buries things. It happens all the time. The earth is a really violent place to be. But like, for instance, when you're talking about the fires and everything's buried, Seattle, that was one of the examples that I saw that they claimed for the Tartarian Empire, because it had a fire and everything's buried. And there's another city below that one. Well, it's not another city, it's a couple streets. And I've been there, and I've been down in those places. They had a fire, and rather than try to reconstruct it because it's such a mess, they just filled it all in and built on top of it. That's what civilizations do repeatedly. Rome, all your ruins, I'm sure you guys have been to Rome. The Roman ruins are all in a hole.
Well, I have another question. I was reading about the Tartarian thing, and they said that best they used the old buildings as asylums for the people that couldn't adapt to the new doctrine or the new thing. and then like the whole like human cloning and using them as breeders basically to do the whole babies to the male and stuff to for repopulation for the mass devastation caused of these mud floods. I mean, like there are pictures of them building these giant sanitariums and asylums. And like there are documented them actually being built. So we actually know like when the cornerstone was set. So like how can you tie that into your theory about the Tartarian and the mud floods? I was just curious.
Sorry, so what you're saying, well, the mud floods obviously a different thing to those buildings. Are you talking about how can we say that those buildings were already there and they were repurposed? Yeah. There's quite a lot of information online about that, and there's quite a few podcasts that are worth looking at. One in particular is by somebody called John Levi. Anybody's sort of into Tartaria probably already knows who he is. And a lot of people believe, actually, John more so, he's probably the pioneer of this, that a lot of those photos are the result of photoshopping, photo manipulation, which they called vanilla sky. So they actually don't show you the ground before the building was there and the process from it being built from the ground up. But they'll just be the odd random photograph. Some of them would have been built, some of them would have been repurposed, so some would have been built in the same style. But the consensus of opinion is that some of these buildings are incredibly extravagant. And if you think about what they were actually being built for, you know, with the most incredible architecture and you know, manicured landscaped gardens, it seems a bit of a stretch that somebody would go to that length of time, cost, to build something to house people that were considered to be not fit for society. Because it's not just the asylums, the prisons and the orphanages around the same period are very similar buildings. And if you think about the purpose of those buildings, it does seem a bit unusual that somebody, or that the system, if you like, the government or whatever, would go to such an extraordinary length to build the most magnificent structure to house people that they didn't want.
Well, labor was cheap.
Yeah, so that's really the and of course you've also got to look at where the stone came from, and you know, and the incredible you know, number of these buildings that suddenly appeared. You know, in literally every town and city in the world, all of these buildings like just suddenly appear overnight, and all of a very similar style.
They don't appear overnight. They appeared throughout the Victorian period, which was the better part of the century. And it was the time when wrought iron and iron suddenly became readily and available in surpluses. So you had the Crystal Palace for the
I'm talking about the brick buildings, brick and stone buildings. Well, yes, I think that's what Matt's talking about.
Yeah, like Penhurst, and there's like the House on the Hill, and there's like a whole bunch of them. Like they basically, like, it does seem like they basically appeared within like a 50-year period, and they were like massive edifice, Gothic architecture. Like a lot of iron was used in it, and of course, iron basically the containment for and grounding for, you know, energies. So it's like there's like the whole. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole that way, but I wanted to bring that up, and the human cloning thing, because I know your one book, I branched at it briefly online for the human cloning thing. So I think that's something I'd like to talk about before we run out of time.
I've got to go in 12 minutes, unfortunately. But I'd happily come back on if you want to talk.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Or if you want to, you guys are more than welcome to come on my channel or whatever. You know, if there's anything you want to talk about, you're more than welcome.
Because I thought the whole concept of the human cloning for replacement population was kind of fascinating, especially when you consider the giant scale that would have to have been done on to basically account for all the babies by Mayo and all the orphanages and all the giant churn mill, basically. Like, on the flip side. Oh, go ahead.
No, sorry. I did encompass exactly what you're saying. I did prepare a question, and it'll be real rapid fire. So your research into cloning doesn't start in the 1800s. It goes back all the way to Sumerian texts and the Anunnaki, and the Book of Genesis. Do you believe humanity was originally genetically engineered as a slave race? And how does this tie into the elite's modern obsession with bloodlines and the Mongolian blue spot?
Right, you've got a couple of different things going on there. The Mongolian blue spot is interesting, incidentally, because both of my children were born with that. Both of my children were born with the Mongolian blue spot. Yeah, and there's this kind of old myth that that the Mongolian blue spot shows that you are a descendant from Genghis Khan. That's one that I've seen circulating. Yeah, so I you know, some people don't agree with his work, but of course, opinions, for want of a better expression, opinions are like arseholes. Everybody has one, and they're all different. The key is to respect other people's opinions, I suppose. But Zachariah Sitchin, I do quite enjoy his work. And Billy Carson, who I get on with quite well. I'm a big fan of his too. I find the Sumerian text and the story of the Anunnaki absolutely fascinating. And so, yes, I do. I personally believe that we were created in the image of the gods, for want of a better expression, as a slave race.
Right. Okay. Right. Thank you for that. Next one, real quick. You've warned that we are living through another reset at the moment.
Wow, that's the great resets that the World Economic Forum keep referring to. So it's not really me.
Well, that's it, exactly. I know. I know. Yeah. I mean, with companies like Ancestry.com stockpiling the world's DNA database, which they are at the moment, you know, they're in an underhand way, but you know, and the rapid growth of AI. How does the current agenda mirror the historical resets? Just as a contrast, how's it the historical resets? How does it mirror that in your studies? And what can humanity do? What can we do to unite and break this cycle, Guy?
Do you know, the unity, I think, is our only way through this, and I'm really glad you used that phrase, Phil, because I think that we're being broken into small groups. Perhaps one of the biggest arguments I see online now, I mean, a few years ago, it probably would have been religion, color of skin, your you know, ultimately your belief system, your language, and so on, maybe even your sexual orientation. But I see people almost coming to, metaphorically speaking, coming to blows over their belief on whether we are on a spinning ball or whether the earth is flat. And I think that we're being sort of divided, and it's the Roman tactic, isn't it, of divide and conquer. We're being broken into small groups, and we will fall out over things. And I think we saw that during the pandemic. I don't know what it was like there, but obviously, Phil, you know what it was like here. We were told to report on our neighbours if we saw them not following the rules, or they had too many people.
That's
people that would live. You know, people we'd lived next door to for years, that we'd borrowed a cup of sugar from, and we were asked to actually report them to the police if they didn't follow rules.
I've forgotten about that.
Yeah, and it's constantly, we're being divided. And funny enough, you went onto my my Facebook page a moment ago, and the post I put up today was literally about that. It was about the fact that
I read that. I read it.
Did you? Yeah. It seemed to resonate with quite a lot of people.
Choose your battles, you got that one.
Yeah, so don't waste your time arguing with someone who has already decided they're right and you're wrong. Don't waste your breath on people like that. And don't try and wake people up, because it's not your responsibility or your job to do that. So it's basically encouraging people that you know, you have your beliefs, I have my beliefs, you know, Rob has his, Matt, I'm calling you Matt now, Matthew, because Phil did it. Is Matt all right, or is it Matthew?
Matt,
You know, we all have our different beliefs, and what we shouldn't do is fall out over them, or also, I believe, engage with someone who's already decided they're right and they know everything, and they just want to shut you down. So they sort of want to win an argument and right from the offset, right from the very, and we're seeing that a lot on social media. And so my post today was about walking away from people that just want to prove that they're right. No matter what you say, don't waste your time and energy on them. Spend it with people that want to hear what you've got to say, not to try and trash it or belittle you so they feel better about themselves or more intelligent than somebody else. To use your time talking to people that are actually interested in what you've got to say rather than trying to ridicule you. And to not try and wake people up and make them want to believe your point of view. To do as allegedly Jesus did, to say what you've got to say, and if the other person doesn't want to listen, you walk away. You don't force it. You don't force it upon someone. So to kind of use your energy wisely and just be there to help people that want your information and don't force it upon them, because we're seeing people arguing on Facebook over the most incredibly ridiculous things.
Oh yeah, really stupid stuff.
And this isn't helping, you know. And if we look at the Georgia Guidestones, or well, we can't now, obviously, but what they did say, it was all about depopulation. And you know, it does look like that is what they're trying to do. And I think 2020 was, and obviously I'll be careful, Phil, you did warn me.
Yeah.
2020 was a good reminder for everybody that, you know, they clearly have nefarious plans. And, you know, I've lost a cousin, an usher from my wedding, and 3 close friends in the last 2 years as a direct result. They all had one thing in common. And I'm very grateful for, I mean, this won't mean anything to you, you guys, Rob and Matt, but there's a really famous footballer here in England called Matt Letizia, who was a commentator for Sky Sports as well. And in 2020, he spoke out on Twitter and he was sacked from Sky Sports for one tweet, just saying he didn't agree with what was going on and he thought there was something nefarious taking place. So people have paid quite a high price for putting their head above the parapets and trying to wake people up. So I just think that we're finding lots of things to argue over and to fall out about, and we're seeing a lot of problems now with with immigration and so on. And
we are, and it's also another thing. Social media is shaped in such a manner that, so take for instance with X or with what used to be Twitter. A lot of these social media sites, Facebook's about the only one that doesn't, but they only allow you a finite amount of space to write your comment in. So someone can write a comment that is quite controversial, and I'll go against it. I'll go, no, I don't want that. But I only get allowed a certain number of words to put in as a reply. So of course I have to condense what I say, and when I condense it, it comes across as being absolutely argumentative. And I don't mean it to be. If I had them in the room, or if I had the means to write a bit more of a thesis on it, a bit more of an explanation, I would write it in a manner which wasn't so abrupt, that wasn't so in their face. But because it's designed for conflict, it's designed, the actual social media platforms designed to create this conflict between people, so that it propagates more input for the platform itself, and it puts people at loggerheads, and it likes putting people at loggerheads because that then enables confrontation, and confrontation to them means more adverts. It means more it means more interaction, because you can't leave that argument alone because X said, or somebody on X said blah blah. Well, that's not right. I don't agree with that, but I can't actually explain myself fully because I have to put it in only about 2 or 3 sentences. So it's all shaped. As I said before we had this, I sent a note to everyone here, and I said, look, please don't mention during the pandemic the C word, because the algorithm which oversees a lot of this, locks on to certain words, and it goes, no, you can't say that. I don't know whether or not they've eased up on it. They may have done, but I don't want to take the chance. But it shouldn't be that we have to be censored in such a way, especially on a platform where we lead an insular life anyway. Our lives are quite insular. So to an awful lot of people, social media is a way for them to express themselves, because we don't go down the pub anymore. We don't go to clubs anymore. Some people can't go down to clubs. They can't go to meeting places because they're being taken away. They're being closed down. So, and now with the social media platforms, which is the only vent people do have to actually say and to express and to communicate, that's being censored very heavily, and I think it's a damn shame, to be honest with you. Anyway,
and I
know you've got
think the ones that are, sorry, I'm just going to say, Phil, that I people often say to me, what about Telegram? What about other channels and platforms? And I think that they're all monitored. I don't know if there's anything that isn't monitored now. I'm told that Telegram's safe and you can send information there, and it's not censored. I think that everything we do, one way or another, somebody's watching it, or something. And incidentally, I do use the C word quite often on my YouTube channel, and it only dawned on me today, actually, that might explain why some of the viewing figures are a lot lower than they should be, but they still monetize them. And it's a little bit like Facebook. I'm restricted on Facebook again for mentioning the moustached Chancellor of Germany in the 30s and 40s. I was restricted for just mentioning his name. For 3 months, they restricted my account. 5% of my followers are able to see my posts. And I just think, is there something out there that is safe for us to use? Because freedom of speech is gone.
Oh, absolutely. It's a lot of people are getting their hands slapped on Facebook from the point of view of they take away their ability for comments. They can't comment anymore.
Yes, I've had that.
And that happened to me, and they took that away for a week, and it's like, oh, really? I mean, that is so pedantic, so flipping pedantic. Why do that?
Yeah,
honestly,
it's almost childish, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's almost
absolutely.
childish.
Absolutely.
But these are all
sorry,
commercial.
gentlemen, but I'm gonna have to love you and leave you now. But
no
but
worries. Listen, thank you
you
very much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. And anytime, if you want to come on my show, Rob and Matt, you're also welcome anytime. You're more than welcome. And if you give me, Phil, if you give me Matt's details, I will send you over the Tesla coil do-it-yourself kit.
Because I'll talk to you offline. I mean, I talked to a bunch of Phil's people guessing that offline. So it's like, you guys are just wonderful, by the way. So it's like, I met like a lot of cool people. Because I never knew much about Edison being, well, he's got to go. Anyway.
No, that's fine. I like to bring people together, and I don't sort of segregate anyone. I like to bring them together because I think that's the only way that we can learn. We can sort of get any kind of results by people interacting and talking. So
I'm not into the conspiracy thing that much. I'd heard about it briefly, but I'd never really looked into the Tartarians. I never heard of Tesla being a fraud or any of that. I just studied it the last couple of days I was off, just looking into it on the internet. So it's like, for me, it's still kind of a fresh subject.
Yeah. It's I suppose the bottom line is it is a bitter pill to swallow, and it's the red pill, blue pill thing, I guess. And the problem is, once you go down the rabbit hole, I think it's difficult to come back up.
One quick question: What did you think? What did you think about the Constantine time reset and how they put forth time further to justify the Constantine?
Yes.
How does that tie into the Cenarian upset?
I'm really sorry. That's a really deep one, Matt. We'll have to be continued. And the timeline generally, I wouldn't mind doing one on the timeline because
I'm fascinated with the Julian and Gregorian calendar, the switch over between the two.
Yes, and then chuck in the leap years and the missing month, the missing month.
Yeah, let's chuck it all in there. Yeah, chuck it all in. Thank you very much, Guy. You take care.
Thank you.
Bye. Right, that was good. Yeah, that was nice guy, really nice guy. Thoroughly enjoyed that.
Well
But yeah,
spoken.
yeah.
Well, see, I
It's
like
very,
coming against somebody who actually has done a lot of reading and actually knows, like, can like quote source material and talk about it. That actually makes you get a lot more in depth about things.
yeah, no,
I
for
just wish
sure.
that people are well read and all this material and can quote this stuff would actually show me some facts, need some real evidence rather than they said or I just would like to kick the tires once in a while and see that it's real. I mean, anyone can say anything and quote other people who say the same thing. And I'm not saying that he did. I mean, I think he's quite real and I think he has a lot to say that's important. And I think some of it's true. But when you say, well, we should all get together and we should all listen to each other and we shouldn't argue. Well, one reason we argue is because we want to express different points of view. And I think that's important. And usually the people who don't want you to argue are the people who want to do all the talking, if you know what I mean. And so, I mean, if I come out against something, and I've had this happen on Facebook lots of times, I'm the bad guy because I don't believe, even though I can just say, well, please show me some proof or evidence. And it explodes. I'm sure Facebook still loves it because you get a lot of people chiming in on that, like hundreds. But I think it's important that we talk to each other. And I think the reason we're all split and divided isn't because we're being divided and conquered. All of this started with the internet. And we have found that on the internet, people can say whatever they want to without consequence or repercussions. So they do.
Yeah, no. So I was looking at yes, no, you're quite right. The internet has enabled it's enabled 15 minutes for everyone, but a constant 15 minutes. It's given everybody the ability to have a voice, which is a good thing. But it's also it has a downside, and as you say, the downside is the inevitably with people, you're not going to please everybody. You can't please everyone. I find I'm trying to please myself sometimes, but and you're going to get confrontation. What you have to do really, I think, is because you can't please everybody, it's just if you don't agree, then don't rise to it. Just like kind of because
Oh,
some
I'm sorry. I
people
disagree with that. I'm just disagreeing with you right now.
okay, I like
think
that. You're
I
just
don't
being
want.
argumentative now, Rob.
Yeah, I don't want to get political, but if we don't rise to the occasion when people say something that's outlandish or is clearly wrong in our opinion, then they get away with it, and that becomes the standard. And if you're shut up all the time because you disagree, then they win by default, whether they're good guys or bad guys. And quite often it's the bad guys that do the winning. And again, I don't want to get political, but I think we've seen pretty good examples of that in the recent years, So I just think that, yes, we have to discuss it. I don't think we should get angry. I don't think we should jump down each other's throats and call each other names and block people unnecessarily. But by the same token, I think spirited debate is a good thing. And the English love that. I mean, Oxford has a tradition of spirited debates, including Darwin,
Yeah, no, debate is one thing, but what I was pertaining to really was confrontation. It's an arena, a lot of social media for confrontation and trolling and all the rest of it. I remember once because I used to have my own business. I was a plumber, and I was under a lot of stress, and I remember going to stress management. It's quite funny actually. And I think I stressed the tutor, if you call it, or the person who I was seeing. I think I stressed them out more than anything. They always seem to be taking more and more pills every time I went and saw them. But anyway, I remember the one thing that she told me, and that was, do you know, Phil, the first rule of stress management: just say no. So, and she was quite right. If you don't put if you just say no, you don't put. So if somebody asks, Phil, can you come around to put a radiator on? But I really, you know, I don't have the time. I'm so busy. It'll be so stressful. And I've got to override that urge to earn money because I've got a family and because I want to put that radiator in because I can, you know, I don't want anyone else doing it because I want the money. But if it would put me under undue stress, just say no, and then it takes that away. And I think I've carried that on with the social media thing. If criticism is constructive, if criticism from people I can see as going somewhere, if I can see that it's going to be have an end to it which aligns, even remotely aligns to an end goal which we can both find some footing on, then yes, by all means, I will engage with that person in criticism, because I know that the way that they're criticizing is in a manner which is going to end with some constructive debate. But when you find with social media that there's people on there that really just, and the problem is, a lot of people come on just to be argumentative for the sake of it, because they align with a certain group, or because they align with a certain person they're following and have been following, and maybe that person doesn't particularly like the show I'm doing, or it doesn't particularly like the way I think about cryptids, or the way I think about ghosts, or the way I think, and they will on purposely try and stick their foot out to trip me up. So I choose to say no to their criticism. I don't rise to everything that people say.
Oh, I don't think you should. And I don't have any trouble blocking people who are just plain hateful on the line. You know, I mean, when they're attacking you personally, that's drawing a line for me. I mean, if they can't win the argument, then they attack you personally, and there are politicians that do that recently. And so I just won't even deal with those people. But if someone says, well, I don't agree with that because of this, this, and this, I think that's constructive criticism. And if you can't, and I think it expands your mind. I mean, they've done studies, psychological studies on this. They will feed people information from a source that they hate. And the people will, even though it's actually factual, the people will disregard it at first. But over time, over a period of months, they will incorporate some of that into their own belief system, and they will repeat it to others as and actually sort of agree with it. So your first reaction to someone you don't like is not to listen to what they say, or you listen to it but discount it. But then over time, you will take parts of it and incorporate it into your own belief systems.
Yeah. It's look, at the bottom line, I think if anyone spends time on social media, it's the same as if you're going to go out your house and go down Lidl, or you're going to go down Walmart, or you're going to go down the local hardware shop. You're not going to go all guns blazing straight in the shop. You're going to go in, you're going to meet people, and you're going to chat, and you know, just have an air about you which is a bit more. You should have some fun on it. You know, you should. It's a community, really. You should. I use it as a tool, and I use it.
What community? Social? You mean social media as a community?
Yeah, social media is the same as a community, and it is a community to an awful lot of people.
It is.
That's my light gone. And it is a tool as well. I get it. I mean, I use social media, as everybody knows, because I put posts up about the upcoming shows, and I put posts up about my videos that I've done where I go creeping about the woods looking for a bipedal wolf-headed man. And I put that, so I use that because it's an avenue for me to get it out there to show people, you know.
Advertisement, yeah.
Yeah,
What's the difference with
basically,
me
you know.
sitting in a graveyard in the middle of the night? And the only reason
Yeah.
I started the YouTube channel was because I wanted to go to the Octagonal House in Kentucky, and they wanted me to have a better social media presence before they let me do a private investigation. And I really don't like public investigations. I'd rather just
Yeah.
have me and my own people and do my
Yeah.
own thing.
Yeah, the public. I went on one of the public ones, and I went to a haunted mansion in southern Ohio, the Prospect Mansion, and it was open to the general public. And we had fun, and we did find some interesting stuff. But I have to tell you, most of it they just got in the way, and they were. It would have been better if it'd been private. If you could have just gotten really down to the, and do it yourself with a few other people on your team, kind of thing. It wasn't, to me, is not just fun, but not as good a result. Not, you didn't learn as much or get as much out of it when you had all these people milling about, going to this room or going to that room. So, I mean, there's no way you could conjure up something if you wanted to with all this crowd around you.
Well, that's another thing about the paranormal, UFO investigation, whatever. We all have to agree you can't have a good investigation without good food.
Well, do you think that look, put it this way, with a paranormal investigation, do you think that you're more likely to have a interaction with a group of, say, kind of like, if it's a public group, it'll probably be in and around about 10 people, or do you think that what we're dealing with is prefers a more intimate relationship, prefers to tap us on the shoulder as we're leaving because it knows that no one else. Yeah, do you think it prefers that? Or do you think both?
I think it's
Really?
both. Yeah, I think it's both. Some people are motivated by one thing, and others are motivated by another.
And not only that, it's very perspectual. Like I can perceive something different. I might have a feeling or a nudge or hear a voice in my head, and the next person might not hear nothing. I might think, did you see that? And the person right next to me may not see it. And then that's when we come into like the investigation, the tools, the actual data, hard data recording of anomalies in the environment. But the thing is, like most of the ghost hunting stuff, and I ran my own little ghost hunts for the public before down Gettysburg and such. And about 100% is about perspective and per your own personal perception. Because you may not see the same thing I see. You may not, that's just a shadow from that. I might see, it's a ghost. I mean, it's about the feeling, it's about the participation of it. It's not like seeing a UFO. I've seen UFOs before. Weird moving objects in the sky. I mean, I'm right near a military base. We were right near letterkenny and a couple other things.
So, do you prefer a small team versus a large group? Then is that what you're saying?
Well, I mean, like the Hoover House investigation, there was about 40 people there on a public ghost hunt. I had basically XLS on the bed, laser grid hit, and had some word box on the ghost tube, which I've always been kind of iffy about that, and the Oculus. That's why I always prefer the Envoy, because they actually show the data record of where it's getting the information for its hits. But I also have a thermal anomaly on the beds too, with the actual knowledge of the history of the place that the lady fell out of bed and died. So the lady did fall out of bed and died in that room. So like when you tie all that together, I had 3 devices, the psychic dowsing rods, the Boo Bear was going off. It's like there's a whole bunch of stuff that verified the fact that, hey, this person got scratched, this one got bit in this room. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Not
my
just
problem with a lot
the
of people is they'll have cold spots, the other person doesn't feel it. A lot of that's highly subjective. I like the idea that you use so much equipment because that's demonstrable, repetitive, or at least it's repeatable, I should say, or at least even if it's not repeatable, there's physical evidence to support it. Whereas when I was at Prospect Mansion in the basement, I felt a cold spot in one corner. The place was generally warm, but there was one. And I had my editor of Alien Skin magazine with me. She had invited me on the trip, and she said, checked that window, that basement window behind you, Rob, and I went over and checked it, and sure enough, there was a cold draft coming from intermittently. So that's subjective, but the people walk with it. Oh yeah, I felt a real genuine cold spot. But that's why I like the equipment approach more. I like substantial evidence. But
I love that thermal scanner I got. That actually showed the picture of the thermals in the room. I mean, that is like one of the most coolest, interesting pieces of equipment that I think I've had, other than the XLS camera. I really like the XLS camera.
yeah, I think that would almost be an absolute necessity for ghost hunting. I mean, to have something like that with you. I really do. The spirit boxes, I'm a little concerned about because some people are saying they're just saying things randomly, and I don't know if that's true or if they're actually, do you know what I mean? Who built them? Who designed them? And is it some sort of a hoax or is it the real thing?
I use GhostTube app a lot, and I've been using GhostTube app a good bit on its own, and I've been using the GhostTube XLS on a tablet because it's easy to maneuver. The real XLS camera with the tablet with Connect software and the actual like sensor bars, it's heavy, it's power greedy, and it's better for a static investigation. Like I'll set it up and I'm just going to monitor something for all night long. But like if you're moving from room to room, having the programs are better. But like the GhostTube app and the Oculus, because I have both. I got a couple other devices there, similar long, like the Fathom box. The thing is, you can't see the data or how it's pulling up the information. It's just pulling words out of the air.
Right.
There's no way you can look at the data and see with the Envoy from Ghost Stop. The old one, it was like an analog, and it actually had like magnetic touch or temperature. And you could actually see in real time the readings and adjust it. Now the new one is a digital one, little box, which I was at 3 graveyards testing it out. It actually graphs the temperature, the touch, and the electromagnetic frequencies on a grafting, and actually records the information. Then you just pull that STS or SP card out and put it in your laptop, and you can see the whole time you have it on. The data it collects, it stores it. And
do you ever use that
and,
data? I mean, do you ever correlate that data or look for patterns or anything in it? Because that's.
I just got it.
Oh.
I was supposed to go to the Gill House, and because some other things that happened this weekend, I wasn't able to go to Ohio this weekend. So I ended up canceling the Gill House, and we were going to go to Manafort Prison last. I basically going to have a dual ghost hunt at the Ohio Horror Museum and then the Gill Manor. The Gill Manor, Thomas Edison was there. It's a very famous. You see a bunch of them on GhostTube, and just like the whole thing kind of collapsed. So I ended up canceling the trip. But the thing is, I bought this piece of gear for there, and like they got the new Rook, which I'm planning on buying the next piece of gear I get. Like I use the old Rook, but the new Rook records temperature as well, and it actually flashed it to an SD card and graphs with the same Excel software that Ghost Stop is putting out free to chart and graph all the anomalous activity. So that means when I come home, I can literally pull that SD card out, throw it in my laptop, and boom! Oh look, we have spike here, spike by time and by how strong it is. They'll record it.
And location, I hope.
Yeah.
As well. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it does location, but I would record it myself because I draw the little ghost maps of the areas and stuff. I usually take pictures. But like the whole thing is like we are coming to the point in time as we get more and more digitalized, they're actually starting to go more and more about recording the anomalies. And I think that's what we need to focus on more in the paranormal is the demonstrable anomalies that we encounter.
Right, because at Prospect Mansion, when I was up there, they did record a shadow person crossing, and I'm so glad they got that because we all saw it, all 30 or 40 of us. But by the same token, they had grooves in a wooden beam in the middle of the barn. That's where we were in, we were up in the loft, and there were grooves in it. And the guide or the host said, "Oh, those grooves were made by when they were lynching people on the Underground Railroad when they caught them. They were using that." And I don't think so. I think it was where the block and tackle was for the hay bales to lift them up. I mean, because I just don't believe it would have worn that big a groove in this old wooden beam. So it's really a lot to sort out and try to figure out. Shadow people, they did that was looked real to me. The grooves in the wood, nah, not so much. And
I love
also,
that in your book, by the way. I was cutting stuff on the kitchen counter, and that's whenever you knew something was wrong. In the Shadow People book, I've got about halfway done. Yeah. I got busy with the kids and didn't get back to it, but I got it on my Kindle here beside me.
Yeah, that was pretty scary. That was probably the scariest experience I've ever had.
But
You'll
go ahead.
have to have a look. You'll have to have a look at the Ellen's house videos, because I've got cameras locked off at the Ellen's house, and it's the clearest footage of shadow beings I've ever seen. It's absolutely.
What's your guys' thoughts on trail cameras? Because I've been debating whether I'm going trail cameras or going like a surveillance setup, like a DHL or DLS type of surveillance system. The run.
I've got trail cams. I use them obviously mostly in the forests and woods. They're great. They're really good because they take usually you can program them so they can take both a still image and a 10-second video. So you get a still image like that, and then the video will kick in. So from that point of view, it's quite good. One thing I would say about the trail cams is they're infrared. Sometimes it washes out the picture, especially if you're going to have it in a indoor environment. You'll find that there's so many infrared lights
sources
on a trail cam that they will wash out any image. So
although I have to say, I've seen some pretty interesting stuff with trail cameras. I personally would, if you're really serious about it, I would definitely get one or two, because they're really handy to have.
Even though I'm a hunter, I've never had a trail camera. That's kind of like new to me. And it's like, I've been thinking about that because it's like, I hate to say this, but I have so much footage I usually get and not enough time. I mean, like literally, like if I put out all 3-4 static camcorders, the GoPro plus camera footage, and then people send me from the other people on the team, it's like it is like a massive amount of just stuff that's boring. You have to sit there and watch multiple times just to see if something happens.
I'm just going to see the comments.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir.
Right. First of all, Joe. Artifact isn't in trailers. Joe. Yes, it is. Have you look at a trailer, and you'll see on the trailer that Colin Firth. There's a section where Colin Firth is holding something in his hand, and it starts glowing. That's the artifact. So yeah, it's on I think all 3 trailers, even the most recent one. Also, I just want to say hello to Faye Davis. Hello, thank you very much for joining the chat. Drew Hollings, hello Drew, and happy birthday, belated I think now, but Kate as well, thank you very much for moderating. Phil definitely needs a probe, yes. Right, I'll brush across that. Let's have a look. Oh look, they're all at it. Hang on. Look, Avon Dawn. Sir knows all about probing. Yeah. You know when you regret saying something special on social?
It was an invasive probe or invasive probe,
Is there any other kind?
Joe said, was the alien at the end supposed to be E.T. from Spielberg's E.T. movie? I'm not going to spoil it. Go watch it. Okay, I'm not going to spoil it. But yeah, watch it.
They sure look like it.
I must admit it did. Yeah. Well, it sure did look like it. And there's a little Easter egg right at the very end as well. And you'll see it coming on. Let's have a look. See if there's any questions that we could answer. Hello, okay. Hello, gents. Hello, everybody. I hope you're all well. Joe. Guy's mate is David Icke. Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. He did mention that. Yeah. Thank you for that. I like. Do you know? I like David Icke. I know he's like Marmite. Over here we call it Marmite because it's like either you like it or you don't like it. I think in Australia it's Vegemite, but
It is.
yeah, you know, either like him or don't like him. But I remember him when he was a sports presenter. You know, I remember seeing him on TV when he was a sports presenter, and I tell you what I like about him as well, not because of what he says so much, but because he has got guts. He took so much crap back in the day, and we're talking like kind of 30 years ago, 25 years ago. He took so much stick long before it was you know, trendy to talk about openly talking about aliens, before it was trendy talking about the more arcane side of life, you know, as a whole. The possibility of there being a secret government in charge. He spoke about it, and he took so much crap. Honestly, he could have had such an easier life, just like kind of doing what he was doing as a presenter. But he still stuck to his guns, and I've got to admire anyone that does that. I really do. I've got to admire anyone that does that. So, yeah, all kudos to him, really. All because of different narrative. Okay. What happened to the books and bibliography from this alleged time period called the Tartarian period? It's a bit difficult to see it being hidden. Yeah, what do you think to that?
That's exactly what I was going to ask you. Why is there no written record of the language the Tartarians spoke? They were a world empire here in North America as well as in Europe. No written records, apparently. No archives. No discovered manuscripts. Nothing.
And see, that's what's really weird. And one of the things I brought up, like at the lodge and like the Freemason, like they've still got records from George Washington's speeches. They got basically receipts from trades from the Indians with furs and goods that were going to the French in the French forts. Like we're talking about, you know, late 1700s here. So it's like there is no mention of any of this in any of the records we have. And I mean, I can actually go to the lodge and see them in person and go through them. Like if you schedule an appointment, you can too. Well, there is no record of any like mud floods or like there's some local disasters and flooding in Logan's Mill and stuff, but that's like normal stuff. There's no real giant consensus of this is a giant like curfew, like no real big thing. Another thing, like a large part of the USA, especially the Eastern Seaboard where I'm at, was marshland back in the day. You know, like it was flood. Like DC was marshland. It was all the way down to Florida, pretty much was a soggy like marshland. A lot of it had to be drained by slaves.
One of the records I saw referred to Washington D.C. as being built in an intolerable swamp. So you know, and is it sinking? Yes, some of its buildings are sinking. As a result, they're built on unstable ground, soft ground. You know,
but we're talking about the time jump, though. Like the time jump and the things. Like I really want to talk to him more about that. I'm sorry you had to go, and I didn't want to monopolize, so I kind of stepped back. But like the building, and I want to get more into that because I saw some of the pictures of the buildings being built. Okay, and you have their time, state putting the cornerstones that you can go and look at today. So if this empire did exist, could we not go and do an archaeological dig at those buildings and maybe discover remnants of that technology?
Exactly.
And also the technology of Tesla was different than the Tartarian technology, obviously. So how is they both different and how they correlate to the same? Like, I mean, that's a lot more I'd like to talk to them.
Well, because the Tartarians are supposed to be able to get energy from the ether. I assume they're meaning vacuum energy, but excuse me. But
the ether was never actually proven. That was a Victorian concept.
Right, and it predates the vacuum. We do know that there is vacuum energy, or we're pretty sure there's no. Actually, they just discovered, they just found actual proof that vacuum energy exists. They actually found virtual particles in the lab. I can't think where it was. I just read it last week, and the virtual particles are being created, and they've managed to catch it in the act. positive and a negative particle, and then disappearing again, virtual particles. So yeah, vacuum energy seems to be real. The ether again was Victorian, but the
Well,
buildings
see, then
in
again, you had the Van der
Victoria
Graaf generator. And
What's that
Van der Graaf's research with static electricity and the Van der Graaf generator. That was attributed to etherism and ether energy at the time period. If you remember correctly. And it was disproved inside
I
of static
don't remember
electricity.
because I wasn't there.
No, neither was I, unfortunately. I would have set them straight because I'm a Taurus. I'm always right.
Did you say you were Taurus?
Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah, May 6th, born on the ascendant.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And another thing about that, I know they want to change the chronology, but I have a friend who is really into Ancestry.com, and she's been looking up my history and Ancestry. And it goes way back into that period uninterrupted. And you can go and see the tombstones. I've actually got photographs of some of the tombstones. So I know they're there. So if this is a cover-up, it's one heck of an extensive and elaborate cover-up. I have trouble buying that.
Do you know, I think to go back to your first question of like with language, there's no written language of them. But then you have to think, well, we're taking it on a very simplified basis, one single language for an entire continent. Pre Indo-European language. That was the first European language, but it was all made up of a mishmash of dialects.
Of course.
So back in the day, people, that's where folklore comes from. Back in the day, you have to remember that people, only the privileged, only the wealthy were able and taught to read and write. The everyday Joe, it was from mouth to ear anyway. And not only that, there's an awful lot of European languages which do, we don't know the history, and we know they existed. We actually know they existed, but we don't know. The Celtic languages, some of the old Celtic languages, the Greek, they're all, the Basque, the Skria, substrates like Etruscan language as well as another one which we know existed, but we don't.
Yeah, but how does that pertain to the Tartarian Empire? What you're saying?
Well, yeah, well, what I'm getting at is, I think we have to remember that if the Tartarian, I'm saying if the Tartarian Empire existed, which if I do believe Atlantis existed, I think Lemuria existed. There's no proof of either of those either, but there is a strong hand-me-down of evidence from maps, old maps, which stipulate Lemuria, a continent which existed. And I think we have to recognize one fact, and that is where we are in 2026, we have a very limited span of history that we can actually remember. I defy anyone to know who their great-grandfather's full name was. Do you know?
Oh, I know. I know.
I do too, actually, but
yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, great-grandfather then. Only 300 years.
Well, actually, I do, but that's only because my friend was in Ancestry.com and looked all this up for me under trust.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, there you go then. Look.
Yeah.
One of my aunts actually went to Ireland and Germany and got first name to first name back on the tombstones, going all the way back to about 1600. So, yeah.
And on my father's side, it was Lithuania, and our name was originally Shkauskas, changed it when they immigrated to America back in 1919 to Shelski, but originally it just meant hunter of the weasel. So we were the famous weasel hunters of Lithuania.
How did you pronounce it? How would they pronounce it in Lithuania? What was the original Lithuanian name?
Shkauskas. Sieskieskas. Just Gaskas.
Skelska. Ah.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, Shelski's shorter.
Yeah, but it's not right.
It's easier. It's easier. It is
Now it's no
easier.
longer Hunter the Weasel. It's more like Hunter of the Ant because they shortened it.
It's
Well,
easier.
Hornet means minor, and our people was press ganged as German Hessian soldiers and surrendered on Christmas Day, drunk, whenever George Washington captured us because we just didn't fight.
Oh wow!
And they got sent to Fort Cumberland to. That was the deal. They could keep their guns and their whatnot. They didn't set out the war at Fort Cumberland and guard the frontier. They would be given land and such, and they were all poor peasants. Just here, you're a soldier now. So
Yeah.
they took the offer.
But back to the Tartarian thing. The reason I'm talking about the language is all major empires, especially if they were world empires, developed a lingua franca. When the French were the most powerful, the diplomatic language of all countries in Europe was the lingua franca, literally the French language. And then when England rose to power, English became the dominating thing around the world. Now that America is the superpower, the American version of English is being taught around the world. So you would have to have some common overreaching language, like Rome. Latin was the common language. Now, do different areas speak it a little differently? Yes, but you could basically understand for the most part. You had to in order to communicate and keep the empire together. So what was the language of the Tartarian Empire?
It could well have been the pre-Indo-European, Paleo-European language, oldest languages in Europe, spoken by the continent's earliest hunter-gatherers and Neolithic farming populations. It could have been a dialect of that.
Well, yes and no, because I mean, in America, there is no history of that language in America. The Native American languages stand from a much different source. And
yeah, but it's going to, isn't it? Because look, originally, America is made up of people that have come across to America,
right?
Except for the Native Americans.
From Asia, they weren't Indo-European; they were Asian.
Well, there is also there is. Are you saying that Vikings never went?
No, I'm not saying that. But the Native American languages predate the Vikings. They go back a long way, back to the Clovis period in North America. And then too, look at Africa. The African languages in sub-Saharan Africa are not Indo-European.
No, they wouldn't be.
If you go to Thailand and places like that, that's not really Indo-European. It may have a little bit. There may, but
Yes.
even so, we have a record of the Roman language.
Okay.
We have a record of
I'll be there in a minute. But anyway, my children are summoning me.
All right then. Thanks very much, Matt.
So I'll talk to you guys later.
I'll wrap it for another week.
No problem. I'll catch you later. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, you take care. Bye-bye, mate. Right. Well, Rob, that was quite exciting actually. I quite enjoyed that. That was
I did too, actually. That's what I mean about a spirited debate. You don't have to be angry, you just have to, want to have a debate. And in the process you learn things. I mean, you're right. I mean, the Indo-European language has spread a long way around the world, but we do have records of the Roman language when it was an empire, of England, of France, and the United States. If the Tartarian Empire was around till the 18th or 19th century, why do we have no record of it at all? Why does no one still speak it? They still speak Basque?
Yeah, I think look. I think Tartaria, as I understand it, was a continent, and it encompassed a lot of countries, but it wasn't worldwide. Tartaria wasn't worldwide.
Oh, well, from what I was researching the last couple of days, it was. It was in North America, it was in Europe, it was in Asia. It may not have been in the Southern Hemisphere particularly, but it certainly was supposed to be North America because they specifically talk about destroying the buildings in Chicago with the fire and the New Madrid, although what the New Madrid earthquake has to do with anything. There was no buildings there that I know of ever. And also San Francisco, so definitely in North America.
Well, I was going back to the Golden Horde, the Empire of the Golden Horde,
the Mongols,
and the Battle of which Putin, when he was interviewed, he was interviewed and he spoke of Russia in the 1380s, 1400s, with Ivan III or Ivan the Great.
Terrible. Ivan the Terrible.
Yes. Oh, yes,
Mm.
yes. But you know, they had to pay tribute to the Golden Hordes, the continent of the Golden Horde at the time, until there was a great battle, and they then took over, which correlates quite nicely with the map that is on Guy's website, which does look like the majority of the land is part of Russia now. You know,
Well, yeah, but I mean, the Chinese referred to Genghis Khan as the Black Tartar.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then there were also the White Tartars right across the border from China that were referred to, they were mostly farmers, White Tartars. I think they were Gray Tartars too, if you want to know the truth, but I mean, at least I think. But I mean, the Mongols had an incredible impact on that the steppes, the whole area of Asia, right up to Vienna at one point, you know. And so the West referred to it as Tartaria, but probably was Greater Mongol Empire.
Yeah. I mean, it was. I mean, I think, isn't it? They with Genghis Khan, there is actually one in every 3 people has genes going back to Genghis Khan because he was such a prolific.
Did they have T-shirts to go with those jeans?
He was like a rabbit, wasn't he? He just went for it. You know, I'm surprised it didn't fall off.
Yeah, and he was supposed to have had red hair and blue or green eyes.
I know. Yeah.
Reports. Yeah.
Very, very odd.
Which
Yeah.
is strange. Yeah. And we still have the Tartars over near the Caucasus, that area, more south of there around Crimea. And so if you're in the West and you're looking east, and the first thing you see in the east, you cross the border into that sort of Russian past Turkey area, are the Tartars, and also, well, and the Mongolians. So I can see where the West would refer to it as the Tartarian Empire. You know, we also had the Ottoman Empire. It doesn't exist anymore, but we had it up till the early 1900s, you know.
Yes, that was a huge empire, the Ottoman Empire. That was
But look at the history it left behind: language, mathematics, science, culture. I mean, how could the Tartarian Empire, which was supposed to be world-girdling, at least in the northern hemisphere, not have left more behind than just some sunken buildings and a few mud flows? I just don't see how you can.
but don't you feel, honestly, Rob, don't you feel that there is a black spot when you look at history? There's it seems to be something missing. There's not quite. It doesn't go back far enough. It's very the history we're taught is very short, really. It
Yes.
doesn't really go back very far.
No,
we're
it
not
doesn't.
we're not encouraged. We're not the history itself isn't made plain to us that goes back any further than, say, 2,000 years.
Oh, it goes back more like 3,000. I mean, we know about the Sumerians, we know about the ancient Egyptians, we know about the Mycenaean
We don't know
culture.
about the ancient Egyptians. Not a great deal. No, we don't.
Well, actually,
No, we
we know we know a fair amount about the Old Kingdom, the Middle Kingdom, and the New Kingdom. But as you go further back, we have less and less evidence because things deteriorate over time. So we know a lot less about the Old Kingdom than we do about the New Kingdom. We know a lot less about, well, anything really. I mean, the Sumerians, they supposedly had the first city, but I do think there was a world civilization, and I think we have evidence for that we don't have for Tartaria.
Let me ask you this then. All right, if why is it that from pyramids in Egypt to pyramids in South America to pyramids even in United States have been found with lidar and with deep ground penetrating radar. What is the what is it in history that we're missing? And it's not that long ago that the feathered temple of the feathered serpent was built,
Was it
not in
Koto?
the grand scheme of things. Yeah, it's not that far back. They were a civilization which had communication. They had language
And written text.
yeah, written text.
Mm-hmm.
So why did they build?
Most of which the Europeans destroyed for religious reasons.
Okay, so let's go back to Tartaria.
But Tartaria was more recent than
can't
4,000 or
we-
5,000 years ago.
Well, yeah, but using that as an example, because obviously the Spanish and because of the British, they done away with a lot of information.
Some has survived. The pyramids in Central America have survived. Two of the codexes or codices have survived. One or two of them are in Germany in a museum there, and that's where we get most of what we know about the Aztecs, not the Aztecs, but the Mayans. So we have pyramids in England, England. Yeah, well, actually, there is one in Scotland. Was a burial site in the that was done by some nobleman back in the Victorian period, I think, or late or early 1900s. But really, the pyramid. I mean, we have evidence, but you can't have a
No, we
language.
don't have evidence. We're filling in the gaps. We're filling in the gaps. We don't have.
No,
We
the
have.
pyramids
We have. We
themselves
have
are
written. Yeah, you have the codexes. Okay, you have those codexes. All right. Let me ask you. On the codexes, why did they draw those lines, Nazca lines? What were they about? What
Well,
are the
the
pyramids about?
Well, the Nazca lines weren't in the codices. They were down in where near Patagonia or somewhere like that, across between Chile and Peru, that area.
Oh, yeah. I thought they were. I thought they were part of the Nazca lines were done by Mayans as well, weren't they?
No, they were much further south than.
Were they?
Yeah, I believe so. They were down near Peru and Chile, South America. The Mayans were Central America. They stretched a little into the northern reaches of South America, and the Aztecs were further north, but they seem to have gotten a lot of their culture and architecture from the Mayans. But the Mayans were largely Central America,
Okay.
Guatemala, that area.
I remember seeing that actually. I remember you are right. Yeah, I remember seeing
I've been there.
that. Have you really?
Yes, I've been there. I went to Chichen Itza and Chechen Choy and Tulum and all those places. Yeah.
What is
enjoyed
it
a
like?
lot.
Because that's really high. That's really high up, isn't it? Chichen Itza?
No, that's in Central America, and it's not that high at all. But I think if you're thinking of the Nazca, it's up on the plain. I think pretty high up, and also the Incas were very high up in the in the Andes. But mostly the Mayans were basically at sea level. In fact, some of their ruins are right on the coast of the Caribbean. If you go to Cancun, a 40-minute trip south will bring you to some of their ruins. So, right on the coast, right on the beach.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No, they were another amazing civilization. So, when you were there, did you? And I'm not being flippant. Why? Where was it written? The reason why they built pyramids, or they done these lines on the ground that went on for miles, can only clearly be seen from the sky.
Yeah, we're not even really sure who did the Nazca lines because that's in a completely different region. But and that is a big question. Why would you design something like that? And there's even more lines they found with satellite images that we didn't realize were there because they're pretty faded. But you have to remember, squares and circles and pyramid shapes are basic geometry. If you're going to build something tall and you don't have the structural capability of using reinforced steel and concrete, You just can't keep building straight up like a skyscraper. You have to taper it, and that is why pyramids. I think there's more to it than that, but that's what the scientists, the archaeologists say. It's just a natural shape that you would build that would be stable.
I don't see that because from a structural point of view, it doesn't make any sense at all why you would build a structure which is tapered to a point to then have
Church spires?
rooms.
What about church
No,
spires?
you
Don't they?
wouldn't. You wouldn't. You know, if you asked if you asked a child and you gave them some Lego blocks, okay, right, and you let them have free reign and say, right, okay, yeah, build a structure. I can guarantee. Now, I understand that, you know, there's nature and nurture, and I understand with nurturing they will be, you know, brought up in a house, so they will probably build a house because it's what they recognize. I get that. I get that. But 9 times out of 10, I have a strong inclination that they would build a square structure, and they would build it so that there would be a room inside for them to go into, much like a cave, if you like. They would build something that would be primordially a safe place, somewhere where there is walls around them and one single entrance to guard, a cave of sorts.
Are you talking about the children, or are you talking about the?
Yeah. Children, us,
You must have a lot of Lego
even.
blocks to build
If
something
we were
that big.
out, if we were out, Rob, listen, look, if we were out in the forest or we were out in the wilderness, and we wanted to build a shelter, okay, and we wanted to make a little Hansel Gretel house. I'm sure if we had some local rock, sandstone that we know we could work with, possibly, that's soft enough to work with, we would make, and we didn't know what houses were, and we didn't know what pyramids were. I'm sure we'd make something which would resemble, to give us safety, something with one access and with 3 walls at least, or 4 walls, so that we are enclosed and protected. Now, with a pyramid, it's different. Pyramid is very elaborate as compared to mimicking a cave. Is more elaborate. Is a lot more work involved for us to build our house together with a pyramid. We would only then argue about where the room's going to be and how we're going to site that room in and amongst the blocks, which are going to have to be put on top of each other, and these blocks can weigh an awful lot, as we know, 20,000 plus tons. So it's going to be a lot more work for us to build our Hansel and Gretel house together, doing it that way. It doesn't make any logical sense.
Number one, if you're building a Hansel and Gretel house, it's based on your prior experiences, and that's why you'd be building it, because you've seen them somewhere. You're copying the design. Number two, I don't think pyramids are built to be houses at all. Number three, I do think there's more to pyramids. I mean, I'm not saying that there isn't something really strange about them. There is. But by the same token, Egypt was known for massive architecture. They didn't do anything small. Their temple at Karnak, none of it was small. They built on a huge scale, but they built pretty basically. They didn't have the arch like we have it today, or the Romans had. They did the square top and down. They didn't have the keystone, but they built with what they had. And what they had was a lot of limestone block that they could carve fairly easily, and they could arrange it in a square pattern, which they did with a pyramid, and then they could stack each level. But because one of their pyramids, if you look at it, actually collapsed, one of their oldest pyramids, I think it's one of the first.
There was an earthquake. There was an earthquake.
Well, an earthquake, but also because it was unstable. The newer pyramids, the Giza and stuff that came after it, didn't collapse because of the earthquakes, and they've had them. So it's like apples and oranges. If I were going to build something that would in the way of survival, it probably would be half a dugout and half covered over with a thick tree branches and something like that, probably. I don't think I'd try to build a house unless I had all the materials and the tools to do it with. And you have to remember, but I do have to say that I think pyramids are strange. I don't think the Egyptians built the original ones. I think it was an ancient civilization, megalithia, I call it, because of the megalithic style of architecture, not just in Egypt, but in France, in the Karnak of France, in England, Easter Island. And I think it was largely a coastal empire. And I think that when the Ice Age ended or something else happened about 12,000 years ago, a lot of it was wiped out. And because most of it was coastal, just as now, most of our cities are coastal. If you think about it.
Oh, that's the book, isn't it? Isn't that the book?
Yes, that is the book right there. Yep, that is the book.
Okay. Yep. So listen, people, you know, I mean, you know Rob now, and you know, he's you know, got a hell of a mind on him. Go check out his
Oh, the
Amazon.
psychiatrist, eh?
Yeah, go check out his Amazon, because that book would be very interesting. I think I'm going to get that, actually, because I think that will be that'll be right up my street, that one. How many pages has it got? 252. Oh, it's quite yeah, 60 odd thousand words. That's okay. Yeah, I can handle that. That's all right. Yeah, that's good.
Publishers
so yeah,
want
please
to keep it around that. They don't like really long books because they don't sell as well and cost too much to produce. So I try to keep it between 60 and 80,000 words usually.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Well, I think we should have him on again. Definitely, that new guy.
Are you talking about the gentleman that was on earlier?
Yeah, Guy Anderson. Yeah, I think we
Oh,
should have him
Guy.
on
Yeah,
again.
that's right. That's his name, Guy. I thought you were saying some guy.
Yeah,
but you're right. Yeah, I think we should have him on again. I would like more evidence for what he says. And by evidence, I don't mean that so-and-so said it or he's quoting so-and-so. I want to see evidence. I produced evidence. Plaster head is one. I have three others. And it shows clearly they're made of plaster and horsehair, which denies what they were saying about the World's Fairs all around the world being a way to destroy the original buildings. But so, I mean, because they were saying that they weren't really made of plaster and horsehair. They were made to withstand it, but the government that around the world, apparently the secret cabal, wanted to destroy the buildings, so they pretended it was a World's Fair and they had created them, and then they were going to take them down because they were temporary. Well, they were temporary. I mean, they were temporary, absolutely temporary. There's no doubt. Some of them weren't. Some were built to last, but others were strictly temporary. A lot of them.
Chaotic Pain 2868. He said a very, very true thing. JP Morgan withdrew his support from Tesla, didn't he?
Yes, you're right. I think he did. It's been a long time since I read about Tesla, but I do know they had a real problem with the powers that be, with Edison, and they had a long ongoing battle, which Tesla, unfortunately, I think lost. And let's just say that Edison had better PR than poor old Tesla did, is what I think. But I mean, you say there's no film, but look there's a picture of him, and he's wearing a collar that is a celluloid collar that you fastened onto the top of your shirt. That picture really dates back, but film didn't really come into its own until the early 1900s, very, very late 1800s. Some of the earliest films we have is of the funeral of Queen Victoria, or maybe it's King Edward. So that puts it into the 1900s. So yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised there's no film of them. There's no archival film of me. I mean, I've written 83 books, but there's no film of me that you can get except on the internet, this sort of thing. And that's only recently.
I mean, it's a fascinating subject, Tartaria. And I think with Tesla anyway, personally, I think the one thing which we haven't really mentioned is he was the father of alternating current.
Oh yeah, I mentioned it in the show earlier. Yeah. AC
oh yeah,
we
did, but that's the quintessential thing. I mean, we can transport electricity via DC, direct current, which is fine, but not over vast distances, not over great distances, where that's where alternating current works. And also it's safer to work with alternating current.
Oh yeah.
So you know, it's kind of one of these things where if what I'd like to know really is, if he didn't exist, where did we get the alternating current from? Who came up with that idea if he didn't exist?
Yeah, exactly. Well, they're saying it came from Tartaria, probably, as I imagine is what they would say.
Mm. You
And
know,
that he just kind of
that would be my next question, really, you know, because and that's going back to brass tacks, really. You know, he came, that was what he came up with, and that what caused so much problem. But he solved the problem of very nicely of efficiently sending electricity over a greater distance without loss than Edison.
Well, you know, I've toured New England, and I was looking for covered bridges, but you know, we came across quite a bit were small, little, tiny power plants about the size of my house. No, about half the size of my house, and they just supplied electricity to the local area. And on the building it said Edison. They were all DC. They could only supply a
Yeah.
local area. They couldn't you know, you couldn't get it a long distance. It faded out. But so yeah, they had to. I think AC was brilliant actually. But now, if the powers that be and you destroyed Tartaria, like you know, the big oil companies, and they didn't want it, then why is it now that solar power is becoming so popular? Did you know in the United States solar power has just surpassed all coal power output? We now produce more with solar power here than we do with coal.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
It wasn't
Yeah,
too
that
long
is.
ago that Texas had more solar panels than all of Europe. Just
Mm.
Texas. So I mean, why are they allowing that? Why are they letting that happen? Now, of course, they have a monopoly and they want to keep the monopoly, but back in the 1800s, they didn't have a monopoly. Edison was just starting out. Tesla was just starting out. Electricity didn't come into its own until the very late 1800s. So, I
Yeah.
mean, and oil was discovered not too long before that. What was it, 1848 or something like that? But and then it wasn't widely used for a long time but they began to switch because it was a lot easier to get it out of the ground than to kill whales. You know, we used to use whale oil in
Yeah.
the United States for lanterns and everything. But so I do believe a lot of stuff is going on in this world that we don't know. I do believe things have happened in our past that we are not aware of, and we should be. I think we have racial amnesia, frankly, as a human species. And I think something big was going on, and I think something cataclysmic did happen back quite a while ago. But for an empire to exist into the 19th century, well into it, and then suddenly be wiped completely, its language, its written records, and besides all the buildings of that period, I mean, a lot of those ornate buildings come from France. The Second Empire period of France got very popular. And before that, you had the Baroque styles of the late 1800s when the Catholic Church was trying to reassert itself. You know, I mean, I went to Vienna. I saw the tomb of one of the emperors there, and it was literally 2 stories high inside of a building. His tomb, so elaborate, carving, scrollings all the way up. That was just the style of that period. The Victorian style went into the neo-Gothic look of all that brick and the towers. And to this day, a haunted house has to be Victorian. Have you ever seen a haunted house that didn't look Victorian? I mean, you know, in movies and stuff. That's the period. But that doesn't mean that that was built long before then. I mean, they did have brick back in the 1500s and 1600s, and they did have glass. Rome had glass. But all the glass in Rome that they produced for all their buildings and everything in it, and all of Rome, didn't equal one skyscraper in New York. So they were limited on how they could produce it, obviously. So, but I mean, when you have all this evidence, and it is evidence that I can hit, kick, and knock, versus people just saying, "Oh, it was a worldwide mud flow," or it was World's Fairs to destroy. I don't buy it.
I still find that, you know, some of the buildings, and I suppose I see a few more over here because it's, you know, such an old country, but and you do see, and people they don't have to go very far to see doorways below the. Oh, look at you, little pussy.
Yeah, that's Blofeld. I'm actually a criminal. I remember.
Blofeld.
Yeah, you remember Blofeld from Goldfinger?
Yeah,
Oh,
I remember. Yeah.
it wasn't Goldfinger. It was another one. It was Thunderball or something like that.
That,
But yeah, he always had
was
that white cat in his lap. You know.
that was the one with the sharks and the tank, and he had that bridge which
Yeah.
retracted, wasn't it?
Yeah,
And they
I
said,
think that
"Yeah,
was it.
it's
Yeah.
good to see you, Mr. Bond." There was
Yeah.
yes, you didn't. You came here to die, Mr. Bond. You know.
I loved all those movies. I thought they were great. I really did.
Yeah.
I used to love
Yeah.
Doctor Who, but it sort of seemed to go off the rails for me recently. I hope they get back on track
You
again
need to get a can of spray paints for the cat.
and paint it
It
white.
needs to be white.
Needs to be what?
Spray paint for the cat. You need to get
Right.
some spray paint, washable spray paint, because Blofeld's cat was white.
I know. Actually, my father used to say we should dye them like red for Halloween. Not Halloween, but Valentine's Day. And I said, you can't dye cats like that. They could just use food color. It wouldn't hurt them. I go, I don't think so.
It wouldn't hurt them. I was only messing around. I didn't mean it. You know.
My father did.
Listen, Rob, thank you very much for tonight. Appreciate it. I think we're about ready to say goodnight. And thank you, everybody that's been watching. It's been a bit of a little bit of a mishmash show, but we got a few things out there. And if you have a takeaway from this, we can never really be sure 100%. Like Rob said, we can't be 100% about our past. I don't think we can. There is that grey area, like Rob's saying.
Well, I think it's really great.
Yeah, there definitely is. And I think hopefully we will try and get Guy back on. And till then, thank you very much. All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
I know what I saw out there.